If you hear me once, clap. If you hear me twice, let's do this.
Nelson, I'm going to introduce you to escort them up. Oh, yeah.
Why, you want to be first?
Okay, everybody ready? Here we go. I'd like to call this May 17th session of the Holyoke City Council to order. The clerk will call the roll and record those members present.
Bartley.
Here.
Bresnahan. Graney.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Leahy. LeBron Martinez. Here. Lisi. Lopez. McGee. McGivern.
Here.
Roman.
Here.
Sullivan. Tallman.
Here.
Bacon. Here. Valentine.
Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
And the city of Holyoke.
And the city council.
We have a few special guests this evening that I would like to do an introduction of, and we have some presentations to make before we begin the regular order. I'd like to recognize Councilor Roman to escort our friends from Capri Pizza up. Capri Pizza, which serves fantastic pizza among all their other delicious items, is celebrating 50 years of continued business in the city of Holyoke, and we want to recognize them for their being great proprietors in South Holyoke, and many of us have enjoyed their fine cuisine for many, many years. Nelson, we have a proclamation to present, if you'd like to say a few words on their behalf.
Thank you so much, Council President Jordan and my colleagues, for approving this in February. We've been trying to schedule it sometime with Papa and the family. I just want to take a point of personal privilege to say that Capri Pizza is an anchor institution in this community, and they have given back so much. And I personally, as an individual, am eternally grateful. Many of you know my story in the city of Holyoke, being a homeless man, living in South Holyoke and staying off of 391. And whenever I needed a slice of pizza, or in my darkest days, I knew I could go into Capri Pizza, and this amazing man and his sons would give me a free slice, and Mama Roast. You can never go wrong with Mama's eggplant parm or any of the wonderful food that they make. But they literally helped me to survive and stay strong every day. I'm eternally grateful, and with that, I'd like to read this proclamation. Be it resolved that the City of Holyoke extends its congratulations to Capri Pizza in recognition of celebrating 50 years of continuing business within the City of Holyoke, and for being the people's choice for best pizza in Western Mass, according to Mass Live last year, within the City of Holyoke, for the pleasure of all its citizens. And be it further resolved that the Holyoke City Council extends its best wishes for continued success, that this resolution will be duly signed by the President of the City Council and attested to and copy therefore transmitted by the City Clerk of Holyoke, signed by our President, Kevin Jourdain, and attested by Brenna Murphy McGee, our City Clerk, but signed today. Gentlemen, please come up. Ladies and gentlemen, Capri Pizza.
I came to this country in 1971. My uncle already had the business going in 66. It first opened on Jackson Street. And after that, he moved to Main Street. And then for about a year, they had a fire. Back in the 70s and 80s, there was fires and riots. So he went back in 73, opened up where we are right now. Then 9 years later, he moved back to Italy, so I took over the business in 1982, and we've been there ever since. And this is the history of Capri Pizza. Hopefully another 50, I won't get to see it. But hopefully my kids and their kids will keep it going. Holyoke has given us a lot, to my family, and I want to especially thank Nelson, Aaron Vega, and Josh for the past 4 years. We are really a tough time, the bridge being closed, and they really pushed the bridge to be open as soon as they could have. So I want to thank them for helping us, because for 4 years we really struggled. And now we're back where we were before. And I want to thank all the Latino people around the area that really respect us. They're like family to us. So all the little kids growing up, we're really, it's like a family. They come in, I see babies grow up to be men, So I want to thank you, everybody, for this special presentation, and thank you again.
We went to school together. That was Springfield Public School.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
How about that?
When he said 50 years, I said, now I must be 100 then, right?
You guys turned out all right. Jim, you want to ready for our next presentation? You and David. David, you ready for our next presentation? Okay. As you know, we also, not only a number of our wonderful proprietors that we have in town, but also we have a number of, an opportunity to recognize a number of people who are very distinguished in their own regard and in their own given professions. And certainly this evening is no exception. Two of our counselors, Counselors James Leahy and David Bartley, filed a proclamation to extend congratulations to Tony Kelly for being recently inducted into the Western Mass Golf Hall of Fame. And our very best of congratulations to Tony. And if David could come up and say a few words on his behalf. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Really want to thank Jim for co-filing this with me. This is for Tony Kelly's induction to the Connecticut section of the PGA Hall of Fame. He was inducted to Western Mass Golf Hall of Fame about 10 years ago. I just want to read a few words from an article that my former softball teammate, of all things, Russ Held, wrote last November. Soft-spoken and humble, Tony Kelly has let his resume do the talking, and it just screams Hall of Fame. And I think that says it all. Tony's completing his 30th, he just completed his 30th season as head pro at Wyckoff. He's a decorated champion. He's a great friend. He's a graduate of Holyoke Community College, Holyoke High School, and my alma mater, UMass. And he's also an inductee in the Western Mass Hall of Fame. He's been just a great friend to Holyoke, great friend to kids, and all the members up there. And just on a personal note, his father and my father were very, very close friends. I think Joe and others remember Kelly's Lobster House and, hanging out down there. I mean, I was a little bit young for that, but the memories there between my father and George the Bear Kelly go back forever, and obviously we miss George very much. But with that said, Tony, on behalf of Jimmy, on behalf of the whole City Council and the City of Holyoke, congratulations. We want to present to you this proclamation now. We don't have it dressed up. It was my fault for, we're going to present you the proclamation now, but we're going to give it right back because we're going to put it in a frame. Okay, so we usually do a little bit better than a manila folder, but we'll suffice tonight. But Tony, would you come up and say a few words? Congratulations.
I just want to thank the City Council and especially Dave and Jim for this award. It's very humbling, and for a Holyoke boy through and through, from Highland School to HCC, this is really special. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes, right, yep. All right, counselors. We have 5 items currently laid on the table.
Mr. President, before we get to that,
Yes.
if I may, can we proceed out of order, suspend the rules, and take up item 33?
Second. Okay.
Just because they're here, and I think those items laid on the table might take long, so.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to go now to item number 33 on the agenda. This is an order introduced by Councilor McGee relative to an exemption for Kayla Rodriguez. All in favor of suspending the rules for this purpose? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Item number 33, introduced by Councilor Todd McGee, ordered that the City Council vote to approve an exemption from Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, the Conflict of Interest Law, for Kayla Rodriguez, an employee of the Treasurer's Office, to be hired by the Wisteria Hearst Museum as a part-time event staff.
Make a motion to receive and approve
Okay?
Second.
Receive, adopt, and approve the
the
exemption, as opposed to a special employee status?
I think that, well, I filed it that way, and the legal department said to file it this way, and so it was through the legal department that it be worded this way, so.
That's fine.
I followed the law.
Okay. Generally, holding 2 positions, we've generally called that yet a special employee status.
We can ask Kara if she wants it, why she asked.
That's
it that
fine.
way.
I take your word for it. Any questions, discussion? You want to give us a brief overview of
Yeah,
what's going on here?
Just quickly, this is not uncommon. We've seen it in other departments. The tax collector did it when he was becoming a football coach. Sandy Smith said that she approved this. In essence, as we all know, if you're working for the city and you're trying to take another city position, this one's part-time at the museum, we have to approve it. In essence, she's not going to miss work. It's just really the way the statute or the rule is set up. So she's following the process. I mean, we've learned in the past, some people didn't tell us anything and they still went ahead and did it. Here you have an employee who knew the rule, called, asked for some help, and is following that process, and her boss is approving it. So, like I said, it's not uncommon, it's just the way the process works.
Great. And I assume these are at different hours?
Yep.
There's not going to be any conflict of the work schedule?
Correct.
Okay.
She's here, I mean, she's here to answer questions. We could always suspend the rules if people want to ask her questions. I asked her to attend tonight for that reason.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward, at least from my perspective, but anybody else? Okay. Any other questions, any other discussion? Hearing none, the clerk is going to call the roll. It's going to require a roll call vote. A yes vote is in favor of adoption of the exemption, a no vote is to deny it.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon? Yes. Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi? Yes. Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
By your vote, you've approved the exemption for Kayla Rodriguez.
Mr. President,
Yes, Counselor Valentine.
could I make a motion to suspend the rules and proceed out of order and address public comment now, since people that have signed up are interested in speaking about some items that are laid on the table?
Second.
Sure. I was going to ask consideration, Mr. Chairman, on 21D, the people are here for, that was the Maloney development. Is that possible? We could do that one now?
Sure.
Okay.
If
And then we'll do the public comment
Sure,
on that
that's fine.
item. Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to go to item number 21D. This is an item related to Maloney Development LLC for a driveway to wit on Tokaniki Road. All in favor of suspending the rules for this purpose?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred a special permit application for Maloney Development LLC for a driveway in a front yard 6.1.8.1 at 61-132 Tokaniki Road. Have considered the same, recommend that the special permit be approved. Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, Sullivan, and Roman.
Motion to receive the committee report, adopt the committee report, and grant the special permit.
Okay. Motion's been
Second.
made and seconded to receive the committee report, to approve the committee report, and to grant the special permit. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
Sure. So the engineering firm, we had a public hearing on this. We didn't hear any opposition. We didn't hear any support. We just had a review from the engineer and also from the architect that went over the project. Looking through my notes here, the basic situation is that they're going to, they want to demolish one building. They want to replace it with and the one building has 8 units in it. They want to replace it with another building with 12 one-bedroom units. They need to have, they come to us for the special permit. They're all set as far as their stormwater authority permit. They've got the parking spaces. They went through the planning board site plan review process. There were a lot of good questions by committee members as, what's going to happen with the residents up there. I believe that the applicant resolved all the questions to the satisfaction of the committee, and therefore, we went ahead and approved the special permit. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was happy to write a letter of support for this project because they are improving a portion of the property to meet needs of the residents there. And along with that, they did add some net parking, which will be off-street, off of Whiting Farms Road. So I saw that as a win-win and thanked them for working to improve the property. Thank you.
Very good. Any other discussion? Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, being on the committee, I heard them out and has very explained everything to the T. And what Councilor Bacon stated, my concern was the parking too. But to make this better, this neighborhood better with parking and with the housing and having actually office space there and a bigger building to work out of really improves that area and that neighborhood. So I'm very much in favor of this.
Any other discussion? Councilor McGivern?
It's a very unique special permit, Mr. President. As you know, it was proposed by Councilor Fair some years ago when duplexes showed up on Northampton Street with all their parking in the front yard, and there was no front yard. So essentially, we're just saying in this incident, it's not detrimental to the rest of the neighborhood. It's not detrimental to even the association of Whiting Farms agreed that, this is a plus, and we're just allowing them to put the driveway in the front yard.
Very good. Any other discussion, thoughts, comments? Okay. Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adoption of item number 21D and granting the special permit. A no vote is to deny it.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan, Graney,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
14 yeas.
By your vote, you've approved the special permit for Maloney Development. Now, I'll recognize Counselor Valentin. You had a rule suspension?
Motion to-
Yeah, rule suspension on the.
Motion to suspend the rules and take public comment out of order?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to now go to public comment. Let me just get my, all in favor of going to that item now?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved? Discussion. Oh, yes, Counselor Graney, under discussion.
Are we going to put a time limit on each speaker, please?
Yes, I'm about to get to that in light of the number of requests. But let's see here. 6, 7, okay, they went over, but a few people, there was some cross-outs. So I think we're still with 7. So I think we can work with our usual 2 minutes each, so that's good. So we have 7 people sign up. And did you want to do anything? Did you want to make any other points?
Well, I don't know if the people speaking are property owners in Holyoke or not, but that would be nice if they were.
Okay. So we'll ask, I would ask
Homeowners or
everybody
prop-
mention their residential address.
Yeah, homeowners or property owners, that would be good.
Okay, if they would mention that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So without further ado, we'll now do public comment. The first person who signed up is Olivia Mazel of 25 Briarwood Drive, who I know Olivia is a property owner in Holyoke, certainly at that address. Welcome, Olivia.
Welcome. Good evening. Is this on?
Nope. No, click the button.
Is that on now? Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. 25 Briarwood Drive. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Historical Commission and Fairfield Avenue in favor of the CPA. In front of you tonight, we know that you have, the City Council has a lot on their plate these days, and we're hoping, and we would like you to consider putting the CPA on the ballot in November. And I won't take 2 minutes. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. We appreciate that. Next up is Susan Van Pelt. Susan is at 246 Walnut Street.
Hi, I am also a homeowner. I am here tonight, though, speaking on behalf of Rosemary Arnold, who could not be here, so she provided a letter and asked that I read it. I am here to read it on her behalf. She lives at 30 Mountain Road. She is also a property owner. She's a Holyoke resident and owner of Conklin Furniture, which holds commercial properties in Holyoke, as well as Charlotte, North Carolina, Chicago, New York, and Philadelphia. Dear Holyoke councilors, as both a homeowner and business owner of over $3 million worth of residential and commercial property in Holyoke, I strongly support the Community Preservation Act and am excited to be serving as chair of the CPA for Holyoke Ballot Question Committee. I have estimated that if Holyoke adopts the 1.5% CPA surcharge with proposed exemptions, I will pay an additional $1,371 per year. I look forward to paying this additional amount, knowing that Holyoke CPA projects will help strengthen neighborhoods, preserve historic architecture, and create jobs via construction and rehab projects, thereby expanding our economic activity and making Holyoke a more desirable place to live and to do business. I've seen the CPA at work in Western Massachusetts towns like East Hampton and Westfield as a board member of the Kestrel Land Trust and Winding River Land Conservancy. I am currently involved in a new CPA project with both East Hampton and Southampton, $1.1 million to protect the Barnes Aquifer Recharge Area located in the town of Southampton on Cook Road. These two towns are hoping to use $350,000 of CPA funds, and because of this, they are eligible for a $400,000 Massachusetts land grant. We have been working very hard on this and hope that both towns see the importance of this property. This project also has importance for the city of Holyoke, as the land abuts Department of Conservation and Recreation land in West Holyoke, and the Barnes Aquifer supplies several private wells in that area. I ask you to consider our 1.5% surcharge with exemptions proposal and ultimately vote to place the CPA on the ballot in November for Holyoke voters to decide. Sincerely, Rosemary Arnold. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Greg Virgilio. He resides at 733 High Street, apartment 4 right. Greg, welcome.
Okay, so I'd like to speak in favor of the CPA as well. I am a landlord in Holyoke. Thank you. Own and manage property in Holyoke, and I'm a resident and voter in Holyoke. As a citizen and taxpayer in the city, I do understand and accept the fact that it will increase my personal and business tax burden. I'm also informed that for every dollar of revenue the city generates, it will get an additional $2 in revenue from the state. Cities inhabited by financially astute people such as Longmeadow and Amherst have quickly voted to approve and adopt this program. I think it makes sense. I think they understand the value of paying $1 to get 2 is called a wise investment. I'd suggest that the use of these funds could be applied to help the city meet its basic needs and obligations. For example, I was recently called about the unfunded mandate for the sewer separation, and I understand that this is something that cities are required to do, but there's no funding provided by the state. I would consider this to be something that these funds might be applied to. In addition, there are numerous buildings in disrepair throughout the city. Certainly, these funds could be applied to preventive action to save the city money in the long run, because we all know that these abandoned buildings cost the city a lot more if these problems aren't taken care of in a timely fashion. So it seems to me that the wise use of this money could save the city a lot of money in the long run. Lastly, I'd ask that a representative from the Rental Housing Association be appointed as a member on the CPA committee. It seems to me that since private landlords make up a large portion of the tax revenue as a group, and further that this $100,000 exemption would allow them a smaller exemption in most cases, that they be allowed a seat on the committee. Further, since they're generally in touch with many of the citizens in the community, i.e. the tenants, they can express those interests and needs on behalf of a large portion of the city. Additionally, the inclusion of a private sector, business-savvy, committed investor will add a dimension to the group that might otherwise be underrepresented. In conclusion, it's my opinion the CPA is a wise investment. Regardless of how the funds are used, I do believe that it will benefit the community, and if used wisely, could potentially save the city a great deal of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Virgilio. Next up is Sarah Elkler of 75 Evergreen Drive. We okay over there? Okay. You need my gavel?
I think you got it.
Okay. Does CPA cover pest elimination?
But Dan's on distress. Dan's on distress. You just sit there and run the meeting.
Okay, Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Sarah, and change of pace. I'm here tonight in the spirit of the Catholic social activists who raised me by example. Dorothy Day, Thomas Merton, Daniel Berrigan, may they all rest in peace. I'm here about the Holyoke Needle Exchange. I am asking for a counselor to file an order for the approval of this vital service, and then for the City Council to approve the needle exchange so it can continue. I am asking the City Council to save lives. Every clean needle helps someone to avoid an HIV or a hepatitis C infection. Exchanges get people in the door to an environment where they are understood, the environment that offers testing, counseling, Narcan, options. Needle exchange saves lives. Hampton County opioid deaths went up in 2015, but Holyoke deaths went down. Needle exchange saves lives. Greenfield residents want a needle exchange. Worcester has recently approved one. This is because needle exchange saves lives. Our parents, our siblings, our children, our coworkers, our neighbors, and our friends are dying of overdoses in larger numbers than ever. Our needle exchange could save the life of someone that you know tomorrow or next week or next year. Please approve the Holyoke Needle Exchange. Please make the decision to save lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Next up is Teresa Cooper Gordon of 102 Linden Street. Welcome, Teresa.
Good afternoon, well, good evening. I am not a homeowner, but I do live here in Holyoke, and I'm here to support the CPA. I am a commissioner for Holyoke Housing Authority, and we just voted to support this endeavor. We felt that it was extremely important to see the community work as a collective. And as we look through CPA and the different groups that would be represented on the committee, as well as the community at large, we thought it would be a good idea, in particular around affordable housing. As we all know, all of us look for housing. Housing is going up, 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 just like taxes are going up, 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 and everything else. But I think that it could be a very good program to help support some of the disadvantages that we see in some of the buildings that are falling down and the money that we've put in them. So I'm here to support it and actually to support it as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Next up is Barbara Blodgett of 171 Hillside Avenue. Barbara, welcome.
I don't think I'm going to be the most popular when I get through here. Several people have spoken about the Community Preservation Act, and I have learned that Holyoke is already paying into that Preservation Act, but we're not reaping any benefits from it. And if we're not reaping any benefits from it, why are we paying into it at all? And if it does pass, it will cost the taxpayers another $23 to obtain benefits. Why would it cost any more if we're already paying into it now and still no benefits from it? Are there any guarantees that Holyoke will benefit from it at all? And how are the projects chosen? Several people tonight have spoken about property that's been deteriorating, perhaps being resurrected. And how are projects chosen? Is it a lottery type thing, or just how is it chosen? It sounds like this is already an ongoing thing. And where is the existing money that has been paid into it already? Where is that money? Is it just sitting idle, waiting for us to pass something, or what's the story with it?
I don't want to get into a big Q&A because it's kind of a long thing, but me and you will talk offline. I can explain to you what they're saying is the fees. I'm not familiar with this notion that it's 2 to 1, but I am familiar with what they're using the registry fees. You become eligible to get various registry fees that people pay as far as property transactions if a city adopts this. So these are some of the funds that, in addition to the surcharge, you get if you agree to pay this extra money in taxes. So, but I can, that's a long conversation, Barbara. This isn't really the right forum, but I'll be happy to call you and we can go through it though. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. I'm going to need a rule suspension. We have a gentleman, Matthew Cunningham, who hails from East Hampton. Under the rule, only Holyoke residents are eligible to speak.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
Okay. No. Any discussion? Okay.
What's the topic before he? It doesn't affect.
I can just, rule suspension requires 10 votes to hear from this gentleman from East Hampton. Any discussion before we go to a vote?
I like East Hampton.
Okay. Raise your hands if you're in favor of suspending the rules to allow the gentleman from East Hampton to speak. Okay? That looks like 11. Rules suspended. Mr. Cunningham, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Just give us your address in East Hampton.
9 West Lake Street.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you. When I was a student at Holyoke Community College a couple of years ago, I had to do a persuasive speech and report on the topic of my choosing. I chose to do it in the needle exchange program. So I went in there posing as an IV drug user. Although I have experience in dealing with addiction myself, I've never used a needle as of today. So I went in there with no opinion either way. Excuse me. It turned out to be an amazing experience, and they offer much more than clean needles. And to this day, I've never heard anyone say, let's go do heroin because we can get free needles. They're already freely available, or they're readily available over the counter at every pharmacy, and many people are unaware of that. They hand out clean needles, and they collect more dirty ones than they hand out. Addicts are exposed to medical care and treatment options, and often this is the first time they're being exposed to this. Hepatitis C and HIV tests are available. The person is treated with dignity, respect, and privacy is respected. The prevention of more hepatitis C and HIV cases saves taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars at minimum. Excuse me. Another thing I learned there was how to give a dose of Narcan, the potentially life-saving drug that can reverse the effects of opiates in case of an overdose. With all due respect, now is not the time to take away this possible life-saving opportunity for those still sick and suffering. This problem isn't going to go away on its own. I would ask for compassion on this matter, and to me, that means allowing Tapestry to continue to do what they do best, which is help people with as many resources as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham.
Mr. President?
I hope the East Hampton City Council will be as generous if I ever show up there. Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, may I make a motion to take out of order item number 31?
Mr. President, before we move to that, could I just make a quick comment regarding public comment?
Okay.
Just as a reminder, Rule 64 says there will be a public comment agenda item at each regular council meeting. This shall be a time where citizens may speak freely about issues both on and off the meeting's agenda. Nowhere does it say anything about property or home ownership.
Keep reading.
Yes, it says that it's up to you to figure out.
Leave that out.
Well,
Is that an interesting?
can I finish my comments?
Well, don't distort. I'm here to make sure that people state facts, and you're misleading. And so the chair is going to address misleading comments made by you. That having been corrected, please continue.
So, at every city council meeting, we have folks here who do not state at the microphone if they are property or home owners. They give an address. So, for this body to be stating that that needs to be indicated, in my frame of mind and in my opinion, is inappropriate. So if what you're stating is that when you look at the list and you see the address, you know exactly that every person that's there that says they're in Holyoke are a property or homeowner, that's pretty impressive. So what I'm stating is, yes, it says that you have the overall control of the aspect of the meeting, but what I'm saying is, when we are here the first and third Tuesday of the month, we don't say, state at that microphone if you're a property or homeowner.
That is a general rule true. I will grant you that. Councilor Graney asked that. That was his opinion. That didn't come from the chair. However.
May I comment?
In a moment. I'm going to deal with this at the moment. Let us read the public comment sheet that has been in effect and used, so it's all fair to one and all, since we ever created Rule 65, I think, right?
64.
Thank you, 64. Here we go. The public comment period will allow individual members of the public to address the council on any matter relative to council business. The duration of public comment will be 15 minutes, but the duration may be extended at the discretion of the council president. Individuals must be Holyoke residents, and if the individual has participated in public comment in the prior 30 days, they will be put at the bottom of the speaking list. Individuals will keep their remarks to 2 minutes in duration. Yada, 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 yada. It goes on to all the rules around decorum. We've been using this since day one. You've been around here for a while. For you to question me on that, shame on you.
You just read Holyoke residents. Is
Bingo,
that?
Holyoke resident. You just said there's no Holyoke resident rule.
That's not what I said. I'm talking about the fact that there's a counselor in this chamber that said that he wanted to know who was a property.
Well, that's his business.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying.
On my motion, sir.
I'm talking about the fact that we are saying we want to know who at that microphone is a property owner or a home owner. That is not what that says. That says resident. So I have an issue with the fact that now we need to know what people's status is on ownership or not. This is about the citizens. Citizens. It does not say owners. So to me, and I've said this before, it is the same if somebody is an owner or a renter. It is the same. So for us to be speculating and saying, I want to know who at that microphone is an owner is an issue. Because it means that whatever folks that are not owners have to say is less than. And that is not cool in my book.
Your book.
That's fine. That's fine, but I just want to be clear. The first part, I agree with the second part of what you said about you don't have to be a resident is anybody, owner, non-owner. The first part of what you said is this Holyoke residency rule. So I want to be clear, those are two separate ones, and I'll let Councilor Graney speak for himself on the other part, which is your second point. Councilor Graney.
Many constituents called me and asked me about this Community Preservation Act. They asked me if the people who were speaking for or against it were property owners in Holyoke, and they were going to be assessed this tax, which is a tax, and I said, I'm not sure, but I will ask, and I will address that in the next council meeting. And if the people out there don't like that, tough.
Okay.
On my motion.
Any other thoughts, discussion on that? I think we've covered that now. Councilor Leahy, you wanted to move to what item?
Item number 31, please, if we could take it out of order. An order introduced by Councilor Lopez.
Let me get that up.
I see some members of the school committee present, so I figure they could go for an early night.
Under the suspension of the rules, I'd also ask that they be invited to speak if we have any questions.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to now turn to item 31, an order introduced by Councilor Lopez. It's requested under the rule suspension that any school committee member be invited to speak if they wish, but any discussion on the rule suspension, Councilor Leahy?
No, not on that.
Okay, Councilor Lopez?
As the maker of the order, I would like to go to committee and invite the school committee there.
As opposed to speaking tonight?
Yeah, I don't, there's no secret agenda here. So I will be more than happy to have all the the school committee come back to the city council meeting.
Okay.
So why we want to hammer this here?
Okay. So how about, I don't think there's an appetite to have a big debate and discussion if it's going to committee.
It's an order, it should go right to
It's an
committee.
order, it should go to.
Yeah, okay. So
I second that.
if it's okay.
My motion was just to suspend under the rules, I'm sorry, under the rules suspension to allow them to speak if we had questions, but.
Oh, if we had questions, okay, that makes sense, all right.
So
We
I
may not have
second
questions.
Dio's order.
So the motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to go to item 31 now, and if the council has questions, then we can ask them questions, okay? All in favor of suspending the rules?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 31's in front of us. Let me read it. Introduced by Councilor Diosdado Lopez, ordered that the city council delete from FY 2017 budget line item for school committee members a payment or stipend. The city council and mayor should bring this item back when the city takes control of the schools. Recognizing Councilor Lopez for a motion.
Motion to send to the ordinance committee?
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to send the ordinance. Any discussion? Councilor Lopez.
And I want to make sure that when we're taking this, that the school committee and the receiver should be invited to
So
that
can we send
meeting.
copies?
Sure.
And the mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so,
Copy to the
motion
school
on the
committee?
floor, yep, motion on the floor is to send this to the ordinance committee and ask that a copy of item 31 be provided to the school committee members, the receiver, and also to the mayor. Any other discussion? Councilor Roman.
I just would, again, I'm going to vote no on this because I don't even feel that this, and with all due respect to Councilor Lopez, I don't even feel that this should be in discussion. I don't feel we should be voting on this. I respect the notion of wanting to save on the budget, but if that's the case, then we should file a late file order to remove our salaries, and we should deduct $45,000 a year from the mayor's salaries to make it even. But I'm just stating my opinion, Councilor. I feel that this is, again, with regards to serving as the chairman of the Joint Committee of the School Committee and City Council, seeing the work that our colleagues do, regardless if there's a receivership or not, these men and women are still out there day after day performing the duties and functions of a school committee. They were duly elected by the citizens of the city of Holyoke, and I feel that this is contrary to that. There's other ways in the budget, and I know I've been diving deep in studying it, and yes, I'm the new guy in the council, but that's neither here nor there, where we can save money, including in the school's budget itself, and working with the receiver. And I would invite you and all my colleagues, again, to join us at that joint committee hearing where we are diving deep with the receiver on on ways to save money in the school budget, but I don't feel that this is the right message. And I don't feel, again, that this should even go to committee. If we're going to make this kind of an ordinance change, I believe that the voters should decide, since the voters were the ones that voted them in. So unless this is going to go to the ballot for the voters to decide to remove their stipend, I feel that this is against the grain of what our city was established and the current ordinance that exists, but that's my opinion, so I'll be voting no because I feel that this shouldn't even go to committee.
Councilor Bresnahan?
I would ask that we amend the order to include that we get an attendance sheet from the current school committee meetings to see whether, in fact, I mean, I agree with you on some points, but, you know, I mean, if the state took over this entire city, then perhaps the city council shouldn't get paid. But we're not in that situation. We are in the schools in receivership. So perhaps, I'm not suggesting that people aren't attending meetings. I'm just suggesting that perhaps we get an attendance sheet to find out who in fact is attending meetings while they're still getting paid, even though their control is no longer there. So I would respectfully ask for the maker of the order that we include the fact that we get the committee minutes for this meeting and as well as the attendance sheets for this meeting.
If I may?
1 second. Councilor Graney was next.
I have to speak against this order. The school committee, they're still out there working hard. I don't know what the city charter says about it. I've looked into the city charter. It doesn't say much about stipends or compensation, but I believe the folks were elected by the people, and I believe that they are in that place, and they should be compensated adequately to that. There is a heck of a lot of things in that school department budget we can cut, including 57 Suffolk Street, and among other things. But I think this is $45,000 a year well spent.
The pay, just on that point, the ordinance 2-35 sets the school committee pay. And that's why an ordinance change would be needed in order to do what you're requesting. Councilor Lopez.
I just want to see this order go to committee. I know that it's not a popular item, but I think that we need to discuss it and we need to take a stand. I mean, if you disagree, I respect that. And let's move on. Let's send it to committee and have a discussion there.
Okay. Councilor Sullivan, I believe you have some. Did anybody else want to be heard on this item? Okay. All in favor of sending to the ordinance committee?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, I'm going to go with a show of hands. All in favor of sending to the ordinance committee, raise your hand. Ten votes. Okay, and to Councilor Bresnahan's point, the chair will request attendance records from the school department, and we'll get that in for the meeting. Okay, all right, so that's item 31. We have currently 5 items laid on the table.
Motion to take up item number 2 on the table.
Item 2, okay. Okay. Item number 2, motion on the floor is requested to remove it from the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. This, okay, let me, okay, just a moment, let me read it, and then we'll do a show of hands, because I'm somewhat in doubt as to the will of the body. Item number 2 is a petition of Verizon New England, Inc. to place one pole on the northerly side of Harvard Street at a point approximately 173 feet easterly from the center line of Pleasant Street. Motion.
Is there a discussion on the motion?
Can't discuss a motion to table or
It's
remove from table. That's the problem. So unfortunately, we'd have to,
Just roll call, is that what you're saying?
well,
Show of
I just
hands?
do a show of hands. If
Roll
there's not
call.
8 votes to remove it from table, I have. Yep. Yeah, it's a request. This has been,
For about 3 months sitting on the table, so I'd like to dispose of it,
okay,
considering we're not doing anything with it.
No, we're not debating.
right.
And I think we could debate, if we could debate, I'll talk about all these workers that are out of work
Yeah,
and.
Okay. Okay. Right, well, I'm not considering that debate, I'm just, she's just saying the petitioner had called and was instructed to call certain counselors to get more information or decide to move it or not. No such call has been placed. So, motion on the floor right now is to remove from the table. Show of hands, raise your hand, 8 votes are required to remove it from the table. 6. That's not 8, so unfortunately that fails. So,
Motion to then take up item number 4 off the table.
Second?
number 4. Okay. All right. Is that the last version of all of these things, or is, just so we're all clear, there's a few different ones that say, and we have and then there's a committee report. Mr. Chairman, could you just clarify, like, what's the one that we're actually supposed to be considering, if you know? Is it 3, is it 4, is it 5, is it a committee report?
Well,
We can consider anything we want.
Well, I just want to clarify between all of these, just so we know.
If I may?
Yeah, Counselor McGee.
The ones that are laid on the table are all the same except for the percentage.
Okay.
The one in committee, there was amendments made to it to add certain things to the question going on the ballot.
I see.
So, to deal with these, it would be proper to take one of them up, whether it be 3, 4, or whatever else there was.
A committee report.
And then, whatever one you act on, the other one kind of just falls down. As far as the committee report one, that's the question going on the ballot.
Well, what are the other ones doing then?
Well, these were just offered up as different percentages to look at. So if you take up 3,
So these are informational only?
well, no, they're all the same except for the
They're
percentage. 0.5.
duplicates,
They're duplicates,
except for
yeah.
the actual percentage.
Okay. Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, let me just clarify. All the orders are before the Development Government Relations Committee. We considered all of them. I don't know why 5 is on here, frankly, because we could take that up and get rid of it. But we voted in committee unanimously to approve number 4, to recommend it to full city council.
Okay.
3 was just moved out of committee without a recommendation. And I think the councilors on that committee will agree with me. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then the committee, the DGNR committee report, let me just pull that up for one moment. This is,
Not even on the agenda tonight.
okay, all right. Oh, no, well, what's 21C then? That's a compendium to item 4, potentially?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, I think I got it. Okay, motion on the floor is to, you want to remove 3, 4, and 5?
Just 4.
Just 4? Is there an amendment to that? Okay?
Yes.
Motion on the floor is just to remove item 4 from the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No. Show of hands.
Show of hands. All in favor of removing item 4 from the table? 4? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. $11. Okay, motion carries. Let me go through item number 4. This is the final version. No changes to this since. Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred an order that the city hereby accept the provisions of section 3 to 7, inclusive of chapter 44B of the general laws, otherwise known as the Massachusetts Community Preservation Act, by approving a surcharge on real property for the purposes permitted by said act, including the acquisition, creation, and preservation of open space, the acquisition, preservation, rehabilitation, restoration of historic resources, the acquisition, creation, preservation, rehabilitation, restoration of land for recreational use, the acquisition, creation, preservation, and support of community housing and rehabilitation, restoration of such open space and community housing that is acquired or created as provided under the act, that the amount of the surcharge on real property shall be 1.5% of the annual real estate tax levy against real property commencing in fiscal year 2018, and that the city hereby accepts the provisions, the following exemptions from such surcharge permitted under section 3E of the act: property owned and occupied as a domicile by any person who qualifies for low-income housing or low or moderate-income senior housing in the city as defined in section 2 of the act, $100,000 of the value of each taxable parcel of residential real property, $100,000 of the value of each taxable parcel of Class 3 commercial property. Class 4 industrial property is defined in Section 2A of Chapter 59 Upon approval of the city council, the actions of the body shall be submitted for acceptance of the voters at the next regular municipal or state election. Have considered the same and recommend that it be adopted. Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, Sullivan, and Roman.
Motion that it be adopt, oh, I'm sorry, it's your order.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question too? I believe we were going to have some conversation regarding 21C, your committee report on the ballot question, so that before the council agrees to put this on the ballot, you actually know what we're putting on the ballot. And I believe there's some information we have to have discussion about.
So just as a point of order,
Yeah.
may I, Mr.
Yeah,
President? Okay, so I don't want to make a motion yet, because the reason I wanted to keep this on the table, and I thought it was understood here, is that we were working on the ballot language first, Mr. President, and if you recall the May 3rd meeting, there was a late filed order from the solicitor's office relative to the language. And so there was a little discussion in this room about where does that order go? Well, it seemed to me it should have gone to the DGR committee. We accepted that order. And we took that up in committee, we advertised, we put it on the agenda. Now, I got a little feedback saying, well, geez, I didn't know you were going to take up that committee order, and geez, was it on the agenda, implying that maybe there's an open meeting law violation, but in fact, it was on the agenda. We did have a discussion, an open hearing, we did review it, and we approved, I think, 4 different amendments to the ballot question. And so I sent those on to the law department for its review, and now I believe we have another late filed order tonight with the law department. Now, I sent it in a timely fashion, well before the deadline for the city clerk to put on the agenda, but we didn't get to it. So we got another late filed order tonight from the law department relative to the language which the Development Government Relations Committee proposed. So it seemed to me, and I thought the body, that it was prudent to understand what it is that was going to be on the ballot before we voted to put something on the ballot.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilor Lopez?
If I may, I would like to make a motion to allow late file orders and then allow the city solicitor to address the city council, please.
Sure. Just so you know, we had a rule change since you left, which allows them, I know we have to, there's so much to catch up on, but basically, but we would have to suspend the rules to allow a discussion of those. But we can, if it's just an item to receive, we could suspend the rules, receive that, and then we also could take up item 21C now, which is the ballot question itself, as well. So, Councilor Bacon?
I just have a point of order. I mean, we've just received feedback from legal on the ballot language, which, from my perspective, would be properly addressed in committee to come to the body once the committee has looked at the amendments, the feedback from legal. We shouldn't be doing the committee work as a full body. That's what we have the committee for. So I think since we just got this today, it would be proper to leave it in committee and let the committee look it over and come back to us with a package for us to consider, and that it be put before the public and let the light of day shine on the CPA issue. So far, all I'm hearing are sales pitches on it, and there's a lot of details in here that are not known by the general public. This feels like a big rush to hurry up, get us to vote, to put it on the ballot. There is no rush to put this on the ballot. We should do a good, open process on this matter. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Bresnahan?
I just concur with Councilor Vacon. I mean, I've been reading on this, and I had a meeting earlier this week about a different proposal of a 0.75% tax, where the exemption, there was no $100,000 exemption, and so forth and so on. So, I mean, I just think there's a lot of information on here. We want to do it right. We want to do it once. We want to do it right. I just think that, we should have one order. Let's get rid of some of these orders that are on the table, disperse of them. Let's come up with the good order with the right number, right? And I got the language just as many of us did, just recently about the percentage rate. And then we can dive into the pros and cons of it. We can talk about the business owners and how they feel about it. We can talk about the Holyoke tax collector's position on it, which we do not know. We can talk about the Holyoke Chamber of Commerce position on it that we do not know. I don't know how the Holyoke Housing Authority Board voted on this, because we have not received the minutes. I know at the previous meeting, it was tabled because 2 members of that board decided that that was not in their purview to discuss. I also know where the Holyoke Greater Landlords Association, we had the president, Greg Virgili, who I respect very much. I also respect the Holyoke Housing Authority Board and its members, but we don't have anything. There seems to be a lot of people coming out, but I mean, the Taxpayers Association hasn't even gotten the dog and pony show, so to speak. Where are they on this? Where's the Chamber of Commerce? They have that. They haven't said anything. If it was such a great program, how come we're not getting a letter from Kathy Anderson? And I'm not saying it's not a great program, and believe me, I'm doing my research, I'm doing my due diligence on this topic, but you know, I had a great meeting with a proponent of this topic about a new percentage rate with no exemptions, and I was very intrigued in that, and that doesn't seem to be here. So I just think it might not be a bad idea. We have plenty of time. I know we don't want things in DGR's committee. I just think that might not be a bad idea. We table it. We look at all the numbers, the 1.5, the 1, the 0.75, find out the best exemptions. I mean, our neighbors studied it for a year. It was the first time the committee of South Hadley voted it not to put it on the ballot. Then they put it on the ballot. The town of South Hadley voted it down. Then they put it on the ballot again, and they voted it down again. I mean, we can get into the minutia of this at a later date. I just don't think it's a good idea for us as elected officials to put an item out for the public to vote on when we're really not, all of us might not have all the information that we need.
Yeah, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I just want to say that I think that what we have done is a lot of work to figure out what the different variations of a rate and exemptions are going to be. I think we've had numerous meetings in DGR to talk about all these different variations. And the order that got referred out of DGR with a recommendation for adoption was this 1.5% rate, and that is the rate that we hear the community advocating for. I think that we can say that we want to put this rate on the ballot without having the ballot language, and we could use a separate order to approve the ballot language that reflects this intention. Because really, item number 4 is just saying we're going to move forward on the intention to put this rate before the public with a ballot initiative in this November. So the actual language of that ballot initiative can be developed and talked about in committee further, but I really think at this point, we've heard a lot, we've had legal involved extensively. I'm really ready to, put this on the ballot, because that's really all that we're doing. We're putting this rate on the ballot for the voters to decide on. And we don't have to become the absolute experts on why this rate as opposed to that rate is going to be beneficial. That's really something that the community and we as leaders can help to bring to the community. I think, you mentioned numerous interest groups, such as the Chamber and other groups, and I think that they have an opportunity to reach out to their own members and say, we like this rate, we don't like this rate, we like this idea, we don't like this idea. But that will come out on the ballot, and so really, all that's before us this evening is putting this rate at 1.5% up on the ballot in November to let the voters decide on.
I think it's appropriate, since we had that initial discussion, I would just want to say, procedurally, I'm concerned because it was my understanding that we would have the ballot question language hand in hand with approving it, because if we just approve this, the law department then gets to just draft the language as to what goes on the ballot. How that is worded is going to be pivotal, potentially, to how people vote. To say that what people are voting on, we're just going to pass this and hope that the law department writes it in an objective, quote unquote, and fair way.
That's not what I said, though.
Well, what you're saying is...
I'm saying that we could have a separate vote on that language.
Yeah.
But I'm being misrepresented. I'm being misrepresented.
I'm only representing myself. I don't want to in any way say I'm representing anything you're saying. I'm just saying is procedurally, the point was we do these things simultaneously, or we pass the ballot question and do this simultaneously, because the statute very clearly, and if you look at the wording of the ballot question, this part is immovable, right? This first, and you have the benefit of this, it's in the second page of the proposed amendment that I made to you, is as currently constituted, this is the proposal to go on the ballot. is, it says, ballot question, shall the city of Holyoke accept the provisions of sections 3 to 7 inclusive of chapter 44B of the general laws as approved by its legislative body, a summary of which appears below? Now, concerns have been raised to us to say, because I think I speak for most people that I've heard from as counselors, is we're not taking a position on this issue. We are simply saying, for those in the majority, put it on the ballot, let the people decide one way or the other, right? So the point is, it seems to infer from that wording that the council has endorsed or is somehow in favor of the question one way or the other, which is the genesis of my amendment, which says to counteract it. Then the summary of question, this is required to be written by the law department, these two pieces, first the ballot question and then the summary, the law department is required to write. What we've said is, because quite frankly, we've had problems with this in the past, it's a learning experience. The charter ballot question was a good for example. How these things go on the ballot and how they're worded in the summary leads the public potentially one way or the other. We want it fair, concise, balanced, the whole nine. But my point is, we wanted to really have an understanding and agreeable language from the law department when we pass this, that this is what the summary is going to be, this is what the ballot question is, and that we counselors will do that, as opposed to just pass this and leave it up to the law department, and whatever you get is what you get. And I just want us to understand the distinction between those two concepts. If we just pass this and we don't prove the ballot question, please know that subsequent, the law department is empowered to write this any way they want. The statute says the city solicitor writes, okay? And so my point is, if we don't know exactly what she's gonna write in advance, you've waived that as a before you vote on the question, because you wanna have this balanced language, this understanding in advance. And that's why these two things got sort of symbiotically put together. Does that help a little bit, Councilor Lisi?
It does. I don't think that I was saying much different, only that I see item number 4 is accepting the state legislation, the enabling legislation, and sets forth our intention. And then we have this item in DGR 21C that would set forth the language that we would still have to approve. And if we're not willing to approve the language that's before us tonight in this form, then I would say we could keep that half in committee. But I would really like to see us move forward with the intention to find language that's going to work for us.
Here's my point that I want to make, just so we're clear. When the committee comes out with its approval of the ballot language, that's advisory only. That is not binding. It isn't a council vote of the ballot question language. We have really technically no say. Our only say is on the vote to put it on the ballot. And so if you say, well, vote to put it on the ballot and we'll do this later, you may, if you came out with A, B, C, D of what the wording's gonna be, Kara literally could turn around and do X, Y, and Z, whatever comes out of committee, just the opposite. So my point is, these two concepts are married really together, because what you're gonna say effectively as a body is, we're not gonna approve this until we're in agreement on the language to go to the ballot, because it isn't pass this and we can pick it up later. It's you pass this and you defer it to the law department. So I just want us to understand, it's not two approval votes, it's really only one. Councilor Graney.
Yeah, we also have to be careful when we say that the community approves of this or the community doesn't approve of this. Many of the people who I have spoken to over the past, month, 2 months, 3 months that this has been going on, they've expressed grave concern about the increase in their property tax. And they have expressed to me that they don't even want it on the ballot. So what I'm trying to do is find out what all the language is, what is the best possible thing to do here. But at this point, I believe that many people in this community, many people in this community don't want this. And that's my position on the issue, and that's where I'm going to stand.
Anybody else want to be heard? Councilor Vacan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The other thing I think we need to be careful of is there is a growing, at least implied message in the room that the only way this can get on the ballot is by us voting on it. The reality is, the proponents of this Community Preservation Act can go around and get the signatures to put it on the ballot. If our citizens want it on the ballot, they'll sign the petition to put it on the ballot. I'm betting 90-10 they'll have a heck of a time getting the signatures, because my calls are running 9 out of 10 against more property taxes. People are at the tax cap. The message we've received from the Chamber of Commerce is this: all the business owners came to the microphone and said, if you raise our tax rate over $40, you're breaking our backs. By us supporting the CPA at a 1.5%, they're so far over 40, I mean, we'll never see 40 again if this CPA passes. So, I mean, they've come to the mic year after year for 2, 3, 4 years telling us don't go over 40. So I don't know what we don't know from the business community. I mean, I guess they'd have to tell us they changed their mind and 41's okay. Because the major payers of this CPA would be the business community and the people that have property values that exceed the average. So I think it is fair that the people be informed. I think it is fair that the proponents go get the signatures of the people who will be paying the freight if they want this on the ballot. I'm representing a ward, they're speaking to me, and I can't imagine the people aren't speaking to all of us. But, you know, I don't know. And so that's an important point to keep in mind, both of those points. And I think this is a rush thing. And I want to offer a motion to send this back to committee. We shouldn't be looking at a bifurcated process. We've got a thing here, do this, oh, but it won't really matter because later we can make up these words. No, we can't. If we vote this to go on the ballot tonight at 1.5, it's going on the ballot at 1.5. And let me be the first to say that I will vote against this going on the ballot. I will lobby against this. I'm getting calls every day from elderly homeowners who are barely making it. And we just got out of committee that we have to raise the sewer rate. Now, I don't know how many of you in the room want to look at raising the sewer rate, raise the property taxes. I'm not in that club. And the people are talking to me, and I can't imagine they're not talking to all of us. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Roman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And again, to speak to some of the points that were just brought up, this is the point, I think, of the local Holyoke CPA. They've done, in my opinion, again, I'm going to use I statements and speak my truth. They've come to this legislative body for us to be the first step. If we vote it down, I'm sure that they will be glad to go get the votes. But they've done what this body and council has asked for years, is that they come to us first, they allow us to have this debate and this formative debate. And I have to go back to the great work that the DGR chair and our committee did in having these presentations, asking those questions. And that's exactly why, under the proposed language, if you're a senior and elderly homeowner in the city of Holyoke and you're listening at home, you're exempt. Low to moderate income, if you have a $100,000 exemption, we've had these discussions and debates, and I want to applaud these individuals for doing their due diligence. If we vote no, I'm sure they'll go out and get the signatures. But they've done exactly what this body has always asked for, is that they bring it to this body and this council to debate. I'm all for talking about these motions about language and amending them. I'm all for that. But I want to applaud these individuals for doing exactly what we asked them to do, and a lot of that's answered here. And now we're going on close to 2-3 months of having these kinds of discussions. And yes, you're absolutely right. Now is the time to do the research. We've provided tons of information and research out there. The group has been amenable and agreeable. They've come to my talk to some of my residents, and you're right. I get residents on both sides of the spectrum, and they've started to dig deep. And I know, other councilors have had community organization meetings and had these groups show up and have these conversations. And I just want to reiterate that, again, this is not, and I wholeheartedly agree with my colleagues who are in opposition to this, this is not an endorsement of whether you're for CPA or not. This is to get it on the ballot and allow the voters and the constituents of the city of Holyoke to decide one way or another. But I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Just one second. Councilor McGee was next.
Yeah, I'm going to go off scope here. This is more of a procedural matter.
Sure.
With item number 4, and I circled it for you, it says my name.
Yes.
And nowhere else is there another name of a counselor on there, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so technically, the problem is, item 4 was originally offered up by Nelson Roman, Counselor Roman.
Yes.
Of which, in a full council meeting, he suggested or asked, and it was approved, that we change the 1.5 to allow it up to 3%.
I believe that happened, yes, sir.
Oh, it did, and we
Yep.
approved it. It was in our notes.
Yes.
So now, what you have before you is saying the committee took up an order to approve 1.5 that was filed. That is incorrect. And it wasn't filed by me. I filed the other 2 just to get this kind of conversation going so the public understands what's going on.
Okay.
So what you have before you is the committee approved an order that didn't exist because it's improper. They could have amended it in committee and said, don't do up to 3%, we amend it to do 1.5. They didn't do that. I'm not picking on the committee. They did their job. They gave the information. That's why I said, when this was all going, refer it back to committee.
To get squared away.
And fix it, not table it.
Got it. Which
Now,
didn't happen.
Which didn't happen. We left it on, so here we're doing the debate. So I have talked with Kara. We have item number 3, which is you can do 0.5% or 1%. No one panic yet. We can give 4 leave to withdraw because in essence, it's not really there. It was improperly done. If you go back to 3, it's the same language other than percentage. We can amend the percentage to 1.5 if that's what people want to do. If you take up 4, it's as if you're voting on something that was improperly done. I'm just bringing it out, and if you're fine with that and vote on it, I'm just trying to make sure we follow the rules properly.
Yes, Lord knows we want to do that.
Mr. President?
I'm even more now confused. I remember, this is all coming back to me. I remember you raised all these points at the last time you said this should go to committee and figured this all out before we,
So procedurally, all I'm saying is 4 is there. It's the same as 3, except for you can amend the percentage. That's all I'm saying. So
Okay.
nothing's changing other than number 4.
But you're saying 4 is out of order and 3.
It is out of order.
Okay, and 3 is what we should be considering. I'm
No,
gonna,
3
I'm just,
can be amended. Just understand. You
what
go
y'all
to
doing?
1.5. I don't want people to say you're stuck with 1 or 0.5.
I understand. Okay. Counselor McGivern, you want to weigh in?
There's nothing illegal about what the committee did. Once again, the DGR committee met without technical support, without a city solicitor, without anyone from any department head there to assist us in these technical questions. And once again, it comes to the floor. The only difference in any of these items is the percentage. We can amend it to whatever percentage we want. The debate is what's important here. We debated 3 times on this. Once on 21C, it's coming out. The city solicitor, the state controls the ballot language for the question. The city solicitor controls the language for the summary. There is some flexibility with the language for the summary, and that's what we've been asking to add a couple things to it, to point out that it is a surcharge and to point out that's exactly what it is, so the voters will be flagged to see what's going on. It's the same language. There's nothing illegal about any one of these items here. They're redundant. All it is what the committee reported out. It's ready for the city council's approval. We did the charter question a lot quicker than this.
Counselor Bartley.
Thanks, Mr.
Question wasn't a tax.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks to the body for being so patient. With all due respect to the counselor, that's not the way it happened. In fact, the counselor wasn't in the room when it happened. May have watched it on TV.
Oh, I did.
May have watched it on TV.
Oh, I did.
But you set?
Okay, guys.
Oh, okay.
Guys.
All right.
Okay,
I mean,
Counselor Bartley, you have the floor, please.
But
yeah.
no names were mentioned, but.
No names were mentioned, but.
No names were mentioned, as it might want, but it didn't happen that way. Yes, it may in fact have been true that at the full body, when Councilor Roman filed the order, maybe it was amended to 3.0, but the body in DGR amended it to be 1.5. We voted on 1.5. There's no debate about that, Mr. President. 1.5 was approved. So whatever was said prior is complete nonsense, and it's a total canard. So it's 1.5 before us. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Roman.
Yes, Mr. President, I agree with the council chair and to Councilor McGee and to Kara and to everyone listening. The amendment was to state up to 3%. When we got into committee, it was my name on the jacket, and actually at last month's meeting, we had this same exact conversation with Councilor McGee, Mr. President, and I'm trying to, work with Ryan on that, and I would like to see, but we took that and we discussed that it was under my name. It said up to 3%. The committee did vote for 1.5, so I did want to just bring that out and call that out, that is accurate, but the committee did vote for it was up to 3% on my order, and then we voted for 1.5. So I believe, to Councilor Bartley's statement, that I agree with the chairman that if the language said up to 3%, and that was a clerical error from how the committee got the jacket, that wasn't our fault. We still, in the spirit and the intention, settled on a percentage with my order at 1.5%, and we had that same conversation and topic of conversation, Mr. President, last month. And I believe when we laid them on the table, Mr. President, I would like to check the minutes. We had that same vote of the body to clarify that we voted then to accept that order with condition of it being approved, because I remember you asking me to file that I approved the up to 3% order at 1.5%, and that was done when we laid the item on the table. So this speaks to that same heart. If that was the case, then this is a done deal. When we laid the item on the table, it was made with amendment to state that it is corrected at 1.5%.
Councilor Bresnahan.
Thank you. There's no rush to put this on the agenda. We can all go out and talk to our constituents. Everyone that lives in Holyoke, we can go talk to and see how they feel about having a surcharge, or what I like to call a tax, put on the homeowners. Okay, and then only everybody gets to vote on an issue that only affects the homeowners. How about the homeowner that owns a bodega in a house, or the homeowner that owns a restaurant in a house? So it's not a $23, it's only $23. Don't worry about it. Well, how is it to the guy that owns a restaurant and owns a home in Holyoke? It's not. Has anybody talked to the Pyramid Corporation that pays over $8 million in tax to us? It's not $23 to them. And you know what? They can't increase the size of their square footage. I had the graciousness of speaking to the managers of the Pyramid Corporation. And ironically enough, they're not crazy about it. They feel they've given the city of Holyoke enough tax dollars as it is right now. We can put this on our August meeting. We can put it on. We can vote for it then. Get it on the ballot. We can't even agree on what happened at meetings. Who said what? And now you just want to vote to put it on the ballot, to let everybody vote on it? I mean, we can talk about this all night. I have no problem. I got nowhere to go. I'm happy to discuss it, the pros and cons of this matter. Or we can do what the people voted us to do. We do our due diligence. Putting the city charter question on the ballot, that was simple. There was no money involved. That wasn't going to affect people's the dollars they're bringing home. All right. So I had a great lunch the other day with a very strong proponent of this topic. He talked about a 0.75% interest increase without the $100,000 levy on that. It seemed very reasonable. It doesn't seem that anybody else knows about that. So now we have a quarter, 1%, 1.5%. 3's going around. I mean, the problem is, the other thing is that this registry, this is not when you register a car. This is when you go to the registry of deeds and buy a home. And that's why it affects homeowners. People that buy homes have to pay that tax at the registry of deeds, not the registry of motor vehicles. If people are so passionate about this, I suggest we create an ordinance that on their tax bills, we have a voluntary box that people can check off that they want to donate extra money to any sort of public park, any sort of affordable housing, or any source of open space that's out there. Let it be voluntary, because the calls that I'm getting from the business community and the homeowners, they're not for it. The CPA group or the proponents of this are speaking to the tax committee tomorrow at their luncheon at May 19th. Maybe not tomorrow, I'm sorry, it could be a day after. May 19th, they're doing their presentation to the Holyoke Taxpayers Association. Shouldn't we at least find out what the Holyoke Taxpayers Association thinks about that before the city council decides, let's just put it on the ballot, let's vote? This is not a needle exchange program that affects everyone. This is not a community charter that affects everyone. This affects a small percentage of the voting population. In fact, 5,700 people own homes in the city of Holyoke. So let's get all the facts here before we just say, throw it on the ballot. We don't know what percentage rate. Does the city council, does the city solicitors putting the wording in? We collectively, and I'm one of them, we don't have all the answers yet. Let's put it on the ballot in August when we have 3-4 months to talk about it and figure it all out. We can all have lunch with the CPA proponents. We can sit down with Bill Rogowski, the Harry Cravens of the world, the J.P. Lavells, the Pat Brennans of the world, find out where they are, because they are very vested in this topic. 1.5% interest is not $23 to everybody.
Counselor Sullivan.
Yes, thank you. We've had several now public comment periods here in front of the full city council. We've certainly had them in DGR. I haven't seen any business owners, any taxpayers come and speak against this. They've had plenty of opportunity. I know there's a lot of them out there that are going to be against it, but they haven't come here and spoken on it. So the group that is in favor of the CPA, they've been here consistently, and I haven't seen this opposition yet. If the Taxpayers Association is against it, they better get off their duffs and start lobbying and get ready for the election when it's on the ballot. And they can do their work, and the Chamber of Commerce and the business owners are against it. I've heard business owners here with $3 million in property taxes speak in favor of it. But I've yet to see anybody in any of the public forums come. They better get their act together and get ready and lobby against the group here that's done a very effective job lobbying for it. Let's just get it on the ballot, and those people that are against it better get their act together and defeat it. Or they're not against it.
Okay. First of all, a couple points. I think it would be appropriate if we took up or considered item 21C.
I was going to make that motion, Mr. President.
Thank you, yeah. Because if we're going to act on this tonight, I think we have to resolve that and if we're going to act on it tonight, we need law department approval. I also need to have something in writing that says the final language that we're adopting exactly word for word for the acceptance. There should be a final version in writing, because what we have is, in these orders, is an or this, an up to that, a blah, blah. We don't have specific language in front of us, so we need to get that precise, and we also need to get the ballot question language precise tonight. Then I would feel comfortable we have what we need. If the council wanted to act, we could then act, and then we can move forward. So, motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to also take up item number 21C, the DGNR committee report related to the ballot question on this. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So moved. And so, let me read
take up an order.
21C.
Mr. President, take it up in order.
Hold on.
How does that happen?
The Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred language for a Community Preservation Act ballot question and summary, have considered the same, recommend that the language be approved as amended. Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, Sullivan, and Roman. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
Well, a motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Okay?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
I guess before I do that, I'd like to make a friendly amendment if I could, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Bartley.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. To add to the first paragraph under the summary question, the following language. The City Council voted, and we'll leave that date open, the City Council voted to place this question on the ballot for the voters of Holyoke to consider, semicolon. However, this action should not in any way be considered an endorsement of this question by the City Council. By vote, period. By voting to accept the provision of this act, you are voting to create a new additional surcharge/tax on the property owners in the city of Holyoke. I'd like to make that motion to add that language to the end of the first paragraph, Mr. President.
That's seconded, and that language exists in front of you on your table.
And Mr. President, I just made two little edits in there.
Yep. you added the word tax.
I added.
After the word, so surcharge / tax.
After the word, after the word question, I said by the city council. I
By
just
the
added
city
that
council.
preposition.
Yep.
And then after the word surcharge, I put a / tax.
Okay. That motion's on the floor, made and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Counselor Graney?
Not on the amendment.
Okay.
Mr.
Counselor Lopez?
Mr. President, I thought that only the city solicitor would have the right to write the summary.
Yeah.
And why are we making amendment when we're not allowed to?
Sure. Because the intention was that we want the law department to agree to give us the summary. This is what we're suggesting the summary be. She approved that. If she approves that, then we can vote to adopt putting it on the ballot.
Okay.
The key is, if we don't have an agreement from the law department as to the language, then I think many are suggesting, because there's some of us that would be open to putting it on the ballot, assuming we know what are you voting on, right? You're voting to put something on the ballot and you don't know what you're putting on the ballot. You're only voting otherwise you're voting to let the law department decide what goes on the ballot, for better or for worse. And so the question is, we act on this, get the law department to agree to it, and then maybe that could happen tonight, if she's comfortable with it, and then we could take up action on the other item, which is agreeing to put it on the ballot. That's the procedure.
Okay.
So, any other discussion of the amendment? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So the committee report stands before.
Did I hear that? Could we do that vote again? Because I didn't hear too many. I heard like 3 people say aye and 2 people said no.
Yes.
So could
Roll
we
call, please.
Okay.
we possibly do that again?
All right, well, just briefly under discussion, I think the point I'll also make is, because I was one of the supporters of the amendment, was there's language in the question as approved by its legislative body. That is leading some to believe that this is therefore an endorsement by the city council. So this amendment offers to eliminate that suggestion and therefore put in language that says we have not endorsed it, but we're leaving it to the consideration of the voters. Okay? And then there's all the other technical language that's going to go in up after it. So,
Can I ask a question before?
yeah, sure,
before that
Councilor
vote?
Valentin, absolutely.
One of the late files that we have is that letter that we received from Kara yesterday.
Yes.
So should that be considered before we're voting on these amendments because it pertains to the language?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just,
No, that's a great point. What I believe the committee has coming out is the version that she has requested minus the word, I believe she agreed to everything except the use of the word tax. Is that correct, Counselor,
Can we suspend the rules to have Kara?
Yeah.
second.
Yeah. Second.
Throughout the entirety of this question, because I think we're going to have to refer back to the law department a few times. So, motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to allow the law department to address us on this question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Kara.
Where do you want me to start at this?
Sorry.
Okay, so we've talked, right now, the question before us is the ballot summary. The ballot question is basically set by statute, and then the summary is supposed to be developed by the law department.
Correct, and
Okay.
that is, I mean, that is my position, to be clear, and the statute sets forth the ballot question. You have that the summary is after the council acts to approve the acceptance and putting it on the ballot. It's supposed to be a fair and concise summary prepared by the city solicitor to go on the ballot. So I had originally submitted that draft in May 2nd, and that language was based on both the Secretary of State's suggested language and then language that I received from the Community Preservation Coalition to better address how an urban community implements the act. And so what I submitted to you on May 2nd was based on language from other cities as compared to towns that have adopted it. So I mean, that first language that was submitted on May 2nd is what I would consider to be a fair and concise summary. I understand the committee did vote to amend that, and I did review those, and that's what the late filed letter tonight was. It was deleting the use of the word tax, as that is not an accurate description and not consistent with the statute, and then correcting the language that was added in the last paragraph to include a reference to Chapter 44B about the possible revocation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then there's the amendment that is on the floor right now, the new first paragraph.
Right, and that, I mean, I just saw it right before the meeting tonight. I think, as I said, I'm not agreeable to including that sentence in regards to an endorsement. I don't think that is consistent with the standard of being fair, and I think the more that is added to this, it's also not being consistent with being concise either. And
right.
I don't know that I would be, if the original language that was submitted, you know, in my May 2nd communication, I certainly would be prepared to agree that that could be the summary that would be used. You know, but beyond that, the more amendments that are made, I would have to look at it further.
What's the issue about saying the city council? It seems like everybody, even the proponents, have no objection. I've spoken to them, and they have no problem with them saying that this is not an endorsement of the city council. Opponents, proponents, I mean, the council is basically saying there's an appetite potentially to put this on the ballot for just the people to consider, without the implication being it's an endorsement of the city council.
Well, I don't think the proponents who are here tonight are in favor of that. I think it's essentially not fair, because it is taking a stand to say that the city council does not endorse the question. So by negative, it's providing essentially.
Is there an endorsement? I haven't yet to hear from anybody that has spoken in favor that by putting it on the question, we are voting to endorse this. I thought it was clear from everybody in the room that we're considering putting this on the table or putting it on the ballot for the purpose of letting the people decide. I thought that's what I've heard. Maybe I'm misrepresenting the view, but that's been if that's been said once, that's been said 82 times. Councilor Lisi?
I think that's clear, and I think that's exactly why we don't need the language. We had 6 different ballot referendum on the past election ballot related to city manager, mayor, size of the city council, and so on, and none of those had these preludes that said this is not an endorsement, because it is understood, and I do agree with Kara, it creates a bias in one direction or the other if we were to say anything, this is or is not.
Well, the question is biased, because the question says, as approved by the legislative body. That's saying we approve of it. That's exactly what the ballot question, so that's loaded. I mean, that's, to my understanding, I am not taking, if I'm going to consider this, I think what we need to be clear what we're voting on is that we wanted to hear from the people, not that it's we council tell you, Holyoke, that this is what we say you should do, that this is you people decide, you the voters, right? And I know at my own neighborhood meeting, if I heard one person support, I'm not going to get into the polling piece of it, but numerous people said it seems implicit to us that if the council puts it on the ballot, it's implicit that you endorse this. Okay, so what we're trying to counter is the language in the question which says, as approved by the legislative body, by saying this is not an endorsement of the question. That's what
Can we strike
trying
the
to say.
language as approved by the legislative
I
body?
don't think you can, because it's in the statutory language. Councilor Graney.
I'd like to address the council. First of all, as an individual, an individual member of the council, and as a homeowner that will be surcharged or taxed on this, I'm in opposition to it. But if I could ask the city solicitor, what is the difference semantically between a surcharge and a tax?
Well, I mean, taxes and how taxes are raised and appropriated are defined in their own section of statutes. I'm doing this to be consistent with the language of the Community Preservation Act refers to this as a surcharge. And so in order for the summary to comply with the statute, be consistent with the statute, as I noted in the letter, just two of
My
the
question is,
examples.
what's the difference between a surcharge
This
and a
isn't a
tax?
tax that is imposed in accordance with the way our taxes are, assessed on real estate. It's a surcharge that is on top of those. And it's different. I understand your point, but.
Well, I maintain
is
if
an
it looks
important-
like a tax and it smells like a tax, it's a tax.
Sorry.
Well, this is the point, is we're trying to run the city through the law department, and they get to dictate how everything operates. And my point has been, from 20-something years of being here, is we need to know exactly what the law department is gonna do before we actually just say, you do whatever you want. Because when you just say to the law department, do whatever you want, that's what you get. And so now we've just heard, if we say we're not endorsing something, that is not fair. So the law department now, we've just learned right now, will not approve that completely neutral language, as far as I can see, for unspecified, we heard her opinion, but I don't understand a legal basis for it. But maybe you could run that by the Secretary of State or somebody else, but I don't understand. So the law department just says no, so we have to go along with that, I guess. Counselor Brown.
And as a way of compromise, because we could be here for, I predicted to my dad it's going to be a quick meeting. I shouldn't have done that.
Jinxed us.
Probably did. As a way of compromise, we have another DGR committee meeting set for June 9th. Now, it is what I felt was going to be a very short agenda, and you've also scheduled something, is it June 9th? Right?
June 9th is free.
No, did we say June? Gosh, I thought, it might have been June 13th. It's wherever the Monday is, Mr.
June
President.
13th is the budget hearing.
Yeah.
The budget vote.
Oh, June 13th is the meeting.
But I mean, if you need a special meeting to do something, we could add that if need be.
So,
But there is another city council meeting after June 13th too. We have, 21st of June is also a city council meeting, full
Yeah.
meeting.
okay, so we had set a DGR hearing for June 13th for one issue. We set that date before you sent out your
Yeah.
calendar. So, and we were gonna move the time from 6 to 5:30 because we thought it was gonna be a quick meeting, so.
But I can do the special at 7 too, by the way, if that helps.
Well, I'm hearing now that I thought we could maybe look at the language of the ballot question on that
Okay.
agenda. So I don't see why we couldn't. I think there'll still be ample time, so.
I just want us in agreement with the law department and everybody's on the same page.
Well,
before we
maybe we could have the solicitor come in and maybe she'll
That
have
would
a
be
little more-
helpful if the
a
law
little more
department went
time-
to the hearing.
A little
went to
more
the meeting.
time for the acting solicitor to reflect upon it, reflect upon your language, and maybe come back on the 13th with, instead of here, in this forum, maybe a little more time to think about it. So I'll make a motion to send, do we take up late file, the late file from?
I have it here if we wish. That's late file A.
Can I make a motion to take that up now?
Sure.
And-
Do we wish to just receive and refer to committee, or?
That's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
Receive that, refer to
Okay,
committee.
suspend the rules to take up late file A at this time. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so
No,
moved.
motion receive and refer to committee.
Motion's been
DGR.
made and seconded to receive A and refer it to the DGNR committee. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then I'd like to send 21,
C.
C, 21C back to DGR,
Okay.
and I'll take it up on, I think it's June 13th, I don't remember the date, but I think that's our next hearing. Ryan, is that it?
Well, I can move, he's gonna start at 5, I'm gonna start at 7.
We'll start at
We'll make
5:30.
it work, or 5:30. I mean, we could go to 7:30 if need
But
be.
we, on the 13th, we have a public hearing,
Well, that's gonna go first.
understand?
Okay.
Public hearings, we can't control how long it goes.
Right. Well, then maybe we don't do the 13th. I could do the 15th. I mean, I just put that out as the tentative night for doing the budget special meeting, to vote on the budget.
So if you wouldn't mind changing that, Mr.
I
President.
I could change it. I just put it out there pending, unless it's totally, we could do it before the 13th, quite frankly. We could do it the week before, or we could do it, ordinances meeting on the 14th. So we could do the 15th. That's also a possibility. We've got all the way to the 17th to stay within the 45-day window. Counselor McGee?
Two points. With everything going back to committee, should we send 3 and 4 back?
Yes.
I think so.
Deal with everything? And two,
Have it all
with-
as one package.
And also with regards
5, too.
to Kara, for correction, I'm not trying to pick anyone, please. All I'm saying is, she didn't get notice to go to that meeting. She is at every meeting we request her to go to.
Okay.
So she did not get notice. She's confirmed that. To say that, it would be nice for her to show up, she always shows up. So we'll give her the proper date. She will be there, and she'll help correct
We'll hammer
out.
this all out.
Right, so I want that
Fair.
corrected because she's always here.
Well, I didn't invite her. So she wasn't invited, I didn't invite her to our May 9th meeting. It wasn't an oversight, but I got feedback. I got feedback saying as if we, I didn't know it was going to be on the meeting, as if we violate open meeting law. So I heard that from the acting solicitor. So I took offense to that. But it was on the agenda. We took it up. We referred it to committee. But she was not invited to that meeting, but very clear. And I did not imply that she was invited to that meeting, Mr. President, by any of my comments tonight. I didn't imply it, I didn't say it.
Okay.
So for anybody to make a speech otherwise is incorrect. Thank you.
Counselor McGivern, did you want to be heard on that? No. Okay, all right. So the motion on the floor is to send 3, 4, 5, and 21C to DGNR. And to
Motion
Aaron-
to separate 4 from that package.
to separate 4 from that package, okay? Motion on the floor is to send 3, 5, and 21C to the DGNR committee. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay.
Show of hands.
Raise your hand if you're in favor of sending 3, 5, and 21C to committee. All in favor? Raise your hand.
We want 4 to go to committee, too.
No.
We want
8.
all to go to committee.
Okay, so 3, 5, 21C are in committee. 4 isn't currently in front of us. Is there a motion to send 4 to committee?
Make a motion to lay on the table.
Make a motion to lay it on the table. Okay, is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
Motion to send 4 back to
Motion to
committee.
adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to send 4 to committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Ayes have it.
Show of hands.
Okay, raise your hand if you're in favor of sending 4 to committee.
No.
9 carries. Okay, so they're all together, they're at DGNR, and you already heard the chairman on all of that. June 13th, showtime, with the law department, cordially invited, so it's totally unambiguous. So that has that. And we are now, we've taken care, so just for the record, 1 and 2 stay on the table. 3, 4, and 5 have now left the agenda and are over at DGNR. We already took care of public comment, so now that brings us to communications item 6. Our faithful assistant has just handed me, and this is, subject to your approval, I hereby appoint the following individual to serve as an alternate member of the Historic Commission, Mr. Christopher Gothier, 1 Taylor Street, Holyoke. He's to serve a 2-year term. Said term will expire in May 2018. Yours truly, Mayor Morse.
Motion to send to Public Service Committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive Mr. Gothier's appointment and send it to the Public Service Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Item number 7. Item number 7 is communication from the mayor. He's seeking to appoint Richard Quinville of 251 Ontario Avenue to serve as a member of the Council on Aging, effective immediately. He will fill in for the remainder of Judith Boscone's term, which expires on August 28th, 2016.
Motion to send to Public Service.
Okay? Motion's been made and seconded to send to the Public Service Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? So moved. Item number 8. Item number 8 is from Brenna Murphy McGee and Ryan Allen, our administrative assistant and city clerk, respectfully. This is
Receive and approve.
This is the minutes of our May 3rd meeting. Motion on the floor is to receive and adopt the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
9 through 13 as a package be received.
Second. Sure.
Remove 11 from the package.
Do you want to remove it, or just you want to make a point on it from the package? Okay, yeah, then we can do it as a package, so. Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take items 9 through 13 as a package. Item number, all in favor of that? Aye. Opposed, so moved. Item number 9 is from Bellamy Schmidt. It's our monthly budget reports. Item 10 is the Park and Rec minutes of January 25th. Item 11 is the DPW minutes of March 28th. Item number 12 is the Sewer Commission minutes of March 28th. Item number 13 is the Stormwater Authority minutes of March 28th. Motion on the floor is to receive these. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, very quickly, I was going over the minutes this past weekend, and I noticed from item number 11 that they're talking, we've been talking about this bond that's encompassing different tennis courts and different parks and whatnot, but I noticed that Jones Point was left out of this, and this is something I've been working on with the mayor and Bill Fuqua, and I'm just kind of concerned if they're not discussing this at the meeting, is this park going to be left out of this bond? So I don't know procedurally what I should do.
Probably gonna have to give them a call or file an order or something.
Okay.
To say, where are we at, update,
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay, yep, absolutely. So all in favor of receiving items 9 through 13?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Petitions. Petitions, item number 14, a petition of Tracy Bennett for a new special permit at 94 Westfield Road for a non-conforming structure, to wit, a detached garage. DGNR, I assume? DGNR. Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and refer to the DGNR committee. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
15 and 16 as a package, they're both renewals.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to take up 15 and 16 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 15 is a petition of Gabrielle Serrano of 14 Ontario Street, Springfield. He's seeking a renewal of his second-hand license located at 2020 Northampton Street. Let's see if we have a business name on that. Oh, yes, this is Kingdom Master Jewelers, so that's the one across from Metcalf School. And it's stated here by the owner, Elmwood Property Associates LLC, that they are current on all of their taxes and municipal charges. Item number 16 is a petition of Karen Spear of 778 Homestead Avenue. She's seeking a renewal of her home occupation permit for a nail salon. Her name of her business is called New York Nails. And that is operating from her home, and the appropriate authorities have stated that she is current on all of her property taxes and various municipal charges. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion that they be granted.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded that these two special permit requests be one's a second-hand license, the other is a home occupation permit. Motion on the floor is that both of these be approved with any currently existing special conditions that currently exist. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of both of these, a no vote is to deny both.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnan? Yes. Graney? Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
13 yeas.
By your vote, you've approved both the second-hand license as well as the home occupation permit. And that now turns us to the president's report. Just a few different things I wanted to go over with you. I had a little bit longer of a version, but I'm going to give the extra abbreviated in light of everything. One is I wanted to first give a compliment to Counselor Bartley, who took some real tremendous leadership on the Scotts Tower cleanup, and whatever supporting role I was able to play to his leadership, I'm happy to have done. They really did a fantastic job up there. Just came out marvelously. I want to thank Park and Rec for really going above and beyond. There was a ton of volunteers that came out, and great hamburgers and hot dogs were served by Park and Rec, and everybody had a great time. The Sheriff's Department even sent up a number of folks, and really tremendous cleanup to Scotts Tower. It looked fantastic. I wanted to follow up with counselors. I'm going to start shooting out some dates on that tour of the, in particular, the wastewater treatment center and that new storage tank facility. I thought it was appropriate as we're considering soon a potential sewer rate increase coming up. I wanted to also mention, I'm going to be, like I said, I want to look at some dates, just so folks are aware. I have been contacted by a number of community members, just regular citizen folks, and they asked if they could tag along and come, so I was fine with that if there's no objection with just non-counselors that would like to come for the tour. We'll kind of send out an open invite. The DPW is going to work with us to put that together. They were happy to do that. So you'll be hearing about that soon, especially if people haven't seen that tremendous water storage tank. It's really quite impressive. See where $18 million of your money went. Money well spent, by the way. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, yes, is the budget calendar. I think other than a conversation that we're having tonight about the 13th being the night of the final vote, I think all of the budget hearings as constituted seem to be working for everybody. I can say that the mayor was on board with the 31st, and I had no objections from anybody in terms of all the budget hearings themselves. The department heads were fine with the dates that they received. I would ask counselors to please do everything you humanly possibly can to attend those. I think we really find a lot of information, and I think if you can get the sort of background support for a lot of these questions and things, it really kind of helps the final vote flow a lot easier when it comes amendment time. You have all that background information. You're not playing catch up. So I think we've got a pretty good calendar. I would note that we have to wrap everything up by June 17th, and the calendar will allow us to do that. So I think at this point, the only thing fluid will be the final date of the vote. Hoping probably at this point to do it the week of the 13th. That's what I'm looking at right now. So if the 13th don't pan out, we've got other options. So just wanted to put that out there. Councilor Graney?
Just an announcement?
Yes, sir.
I just would like to wish my wife a happy birthday today. After 47 years, I still love her, and she's still my best friend.
Oh, absolutely. That's awesome. Happy birthday, Ellen. And many more. We should have a proclamation for you to put up for putting up with Howie for all these years.
Yeah.
That's a trophy.
Yeah. What am I doing to myself?
I also wanted to say that I had talked to a number of counselors as well, but we're also going to be making a flower fund contribution to Gladys's husband, also who was having some challenges recently, and so on behalf of the flower fund, we'll be making a contribution there, and we wish you and him the very best going forward as well.
Hear, hear.
So I think that's about it. I had a bunch of other items, but we'll go over that. Oh, actually, did want to mention one thing else to you, which is kind of a big ticket item, is the capital bond. I had a conversation, very nice conversation with the mayor the other day, and it looks like the game plan is that that's going to come in June for our consideration, and maybe if we could pull it off, maybe a vote in August to have some consideration and a vote on that. So I just wanted to let you know, if you haven't yet, put in the requests that were solicited of you earlier. Please remember to do that. You know, because we don't want anybody to say, well, gee, I wanted X and it didn't get in there, because kind of, as we know, when the mayor submits it, it cannot be amended at that point, okay? Councilor McGee.
That was my question. Are there going to be several different options or just one option? Because what if 3 of your projects don't get put in, but 3 of someone else's, and
Yeah.
and I understand everyone dumped in what they would like as a wish list. Some may or may not get it.
Right.
Is it better to say, well, these are more important of the big ticket items, whereas these might, in the following year, that way we should have different options as to what bond would go forward?
Right. My game plan is to try and build consensus around this. This is something that I think we need to do. Obviously, it's not an unlimited pot of money. To your point, I would hope that, if people put in something and it was viewed by pretty much uniformly everybody, this is something we should do, that should be making the list. But if it's something that's perhaps impossible to do, or we can't do, or would be, an absolute nicety, but not, or considered quote unquote a luxury that we can't do, then we have to have a conversation that said, gee, you got 1 or 2 of the things you wanted, but you didn't get the third, maybe we pick that up down the road. I think that's gonna be a conversation. I don't believe, though, the intent is to have 3 versions, 4 versions, because then it becomes, well, do we want this version, that version? I think at some point, we have to coalesce around some, and I think the dialogue that's trying to take place, and I'm certainly gonna do my part with that to communicate with counselors, is, this is the package, is this something you feel comfortable with? Is this something you could support? And then at that point, we sort of take that as a barometer, but I mean, if there's a lot of opposition going in, then you have to go back to the drawing board and revisit the whole thing. But the goal is to try and have people feel very comfortable, not that you're committing to a yes vote, but by the same token, it's not gonna be something totally off the wall, to what people are looking for. But no, I don't believe there's a plan to have many versions to it, to your point. Okay. All right. Open to suggestions, though. If you think there's another way, I'm happy to talk to you more about that, though.
Sure.
If you ever think there's another way we could do things. Counselor Tallman?
Yeah, Mr. President, just one thing to mention, and I'm sure we all got the email about the Memorial Day parade coming up.
Yeah.
And I think it's earlier than normal, too. I think it starts off at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or 8:30, so it's something that we won't be meeting again until after that, so I think.
Thank you for mentioning that, thank you. I almost, so Memorial Day at the War Memorial. So I don't know, did we have a late file communication? Usually we get something from the War Memorial Commission on that. There was something circulating. I got something from them, email-wise.
They sent an email out.
Yeah, okay. Did everybody get that, hopefully? If not, okay, good. All right. So that's coming up as well. I think I covered the bigger items, but more to follow, a lot going on around the city. We also, I just want to remind the public, where we're going to have that public hearing on the sewer rate increase. That's going to be in front of ordinance next week. So, certainly I would encourage everybody to come down and attend and give their opinion, or if nothing else, just take in the information. And then hopefully the council will be taking some action at some point on that, one way or the other. Councilor Bacon.
Could I just offer a point of information relative
Sure.
to that hearing to the public? There was a comment made in chambers tonight that implied that if people don't come down here and speak at the microphone, that somehow their opinion doesn't count. And I just wanted to be clear that members of the community that don't choose to come down to the microphone here have any number of ways to access any of us. And their voice is heard, whether it's an email, a phone call, etc. It's an opportunity that we afford the public to offer the public comment. It doesn't mean if people don't come to that microphone and they don't object to something, that their voice doesn't count the same. Thank you.
Obviously, some people are adverse to public speaking. Obviously, the 15 of us extroverts are not.
Shut up.
Even when someone wish we would.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Just about the Memorial Day ceremony, I just checked the email. So it was an email actually from Wilfredo Melendez, but it was May 21st, but unfortunately he included former counselors and not the new
okay.
folks. So I'm gonna send it to Ryan.
Would you please?
So that he can then make sure it's distributed to everyone.
Excellent, thank you very much. Councilor Sullivan?
I just have a question regarding the CDBG final
appropriation.
Appropriations
Yep.
by the mayor. Has everybody received a copy of that?
Usually, I have, via the mail. I have not seen that on the agenda. Madam Clerk, did you get anything from CDBG? Usually, the final version is sent to her and put as a communication to us, the final appropriation. So maybe we could get that and put on the, on a future agenda. Did you want to offer anything else on that, Mike? Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it appropriate right now?
Not if you're going to talk substantive, more just procedurally speaking, yeah, okay. So, Counselor Graney?
I received a packet in the mail on that. So
Yeah.
if I got it, everybody got it.
The other thing I wanted to point out, and I believe I have it on the agenda here, so I'll save it for later, is the issue about the budget getting put up on the website. I'm told that that is now on the website, so that did happen. So some people have been asking, constituents have been asking for a copy of the budget. They can download that. I believe it's on the auditor's page, if I'm correct. Yep, thank you. So that's it for President's report. Okay? Any other thing, announcements? Counselor LeBeau Martinez.
Is it possible for me to make an announcement? I believe I sent a letter to some of you. It's in regards to community service projects that I'm looking for youth in our community that are actually upcoming ninth graders to the high school who are English language learners, having experience of doing community service this summer, starting July 8th, and it's any project that anyone needs, as long as it's nothing political or type of, campaigning, but anything like what David Bartley did with the park up there, it could have been done, support, things like that.
Spending a day with Dave Bartley, that would be quite a great
Doing a
internship.
project that is.
Just follow him around for a couple days.
So,
learn
so
a
that it
lot.
can be given back to the community, in other words, but that they can learn and experience from it, so. Just
Thank you
sharing.
thank you for that, we appreciate that. And if we think of anybody, we'll be in touch with you. Okay, great. Moving right along, reports of committees. Next up is the ordinance committee report. And first amongst them is the 17A, and we have all the committee members listed. The report, the 17A, the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that to amend Hoyoke Code of Ordinances 22, Sections 161 through 163, pawnbrokers, and Chapter 66, second-hand dealers, by requiring that all city businesses subject to these laws be required to photograph any merchandise it receives, buys, sells, and to photograph any sellers and then upload the photos onto a police computer system for the purpose of making an electronic record. Currently, pawnbrokers are only required to keep a book open to the inspection of the mayor or city council or any other duly authorized person. Further, the amendment should require said dealers to hold items for at least 30 days prior to resale, and the amendment should require pawnbrokers and second-hand dealers to register with the chief of police, i.e. Ordinance Section 62-73, like peddlers, hawkers, and solicitors must do. Have considered the same, recommend that this order be adopted as amended. Councilors Vacan, Jordan, and Bartley.
A motion to receive and adopt the committee report and pass the first reading.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt and pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a couple of meetings on this with some good discussion, and we had a remaining open question, and the maker of the order followed up with the people who run the program. So the questions that were asked received a complete answer in terms of how the information would be used, and it was noted that particularly when we're having an uptick in property crimes, that this program has helped, particularly in one of the local communities, to resolve a number of these issues. But I'll yield to the maker of the order if he wishes to comment further. Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, we filed this order a while ago. We had a lot of good hearings in ordinance over the last year plus, and a lot of great discussion. I think Kara put it in legal form, it looked really good. We voted to approve it. It's just basically to modernize the ordinances. This was a recommendation that came to me from an out-of-town police captain, and it was fully supported by the New England State Police Information Network, and the gentleman was in here who runs that. Kurt McKenzie was in a year ago and gave a presentation, and over the course of time, we followed up with him, and I think we answered some questions. Some of the questions are reasonable from committee relative to taking photographs of the items. But one of the controversial parts we talked about was taking photographs of the person who wants to peddle the item, and it was the opinion of the state police that with a photograph of the person who's trying to peddle the item, there's that much more evidence, Mr. President. It's not that photograph is going to be disseminated in any way. It's likened. Is it the state police said what happens often is if you don't photograph the person peddling the item, you're relying therefore on what's possibly a fake ID and or memory of the pawn shop broker. So with a photograph of the actual item being pawned, as well as a photograph of the person pawning said item, there was a lot more evidence available should the item found to be misappropriated. So that's where we left it, and thank you.
Okay. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I think that overall this is a great order because it's trying to update an analog system of recording names and old, photographs of merchandise and bringing it into the 21st century with the digital age and getting these photos taken of the merchandise and the peddlers. However, the photos of the peddlers do become part of a regional database. And so while the images of those individuals may not be disseminated or available to the wider public, it does become part of a database, and I'm just not in favor of that. And for me, it's a deal breaker for the larger order, which overall I do think is good and has merit. So I'll be voting against this tonight because of the photograph that's required of the peddler, which then becomes part of a regional state police database.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Councilor Sullivan.
Well, I'll cut right to the chase on it. A lot of the stuff that's showing up in these pawn shops is stolen, and it's coming out off of job sites. You're seeing drills, wrenches, all kinds of stuff just stolen, and it's, for the most part, drug abusers, and they're doing it for a quick fix. It's $10, that's their next fix, and it's rampant, especially in the lower wards in Holyoke, and I think this is a great order.
Okay. Councilor Graney.
Anything that's going to aid the police to put criminals, that are operating in this community, I think is a good order, and I support it wholeheartedly.
Okay. Anybody else? Councilor LeBron Martinez.
If anyone recalls, I was opposed to having pawn shop in our neighborhoods because that's what it does. It calls out and it brings the opportunities for, the individuals who take advantage of this, and it's happening. I've seen on my street people stealing things in a shopping cart and even taking as far as grills. Can you imagine just putting a grill on that and driving it away from it? I mean, and these are things that are being either sold out or whatever, but I mean, I'm just sharing that because this is what it costs neighborhoods when you're opening pawn shop. They know that communities that are suffering will do certain things like that, and I'm opposed to pawn shop in our neighborhoods.
I'm also intrigued to your point about grocery carts. Has anybody ever been to a grocery cart store that sells those? I've never. Can you even purchase, unless you're at some national wholesale place, can you purchase a shopping cart?
Purchase them in Holyoke.
I'm not familiar. I've never been to a store that sells those. So by walking one around town that says, I don't know, Stop and Shop on the front, or Lord knows what it says, isn't that evidence, or at least prima facie evidence of receiving stolen property? Or having stolen property? I don't know. I've never known you could buy one of those. I've never seen a store that sells them.
I know, but they are valued at over $250 from what I understand.
So I'm told.
That's an ordinance that's supposed to be enforced by the police. It's a $25 fine for
I think it's
walking off the
100.
property with the shopping cart.
I think we moved it up to 100, Danny.
Interesting. I wonder if the police actually question people about that are loading them up and transporting things. Councilor Bartley, did you have some additional commentary? Yes.
Just want to compliment the Ward 1 councilor because I remember that speech as if it was yesterday. when she took on a fellow counselor and said, if that pawn shop goes, talk about making the counselor back down and back away. I'm not saying Gladys LeBron Martinez isn't intimidating, but she's 5'2", but I tell you what, that speech was tremendous. And I remember it like it was, like I said, like it was yesterday. So I just want to compliment her on reminding me of that memory.
Anybody else? Okay, Counselor Bacon?
Just quickly, for those who have concern about the photos, I would just note that anybody bringing an item to sale at a pawn shop is doing it on a voluntary basis. It's not the only option. Thank you.
Okay, if there's any other thoughts, comments, discussion, okay. All in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the ordinance change, and no vote is to deny it.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
No?
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
13 yeas and 2 nays.
By your vote, you've approved the ordinance change. 17B. 17B is a report from the Committee on Ordinance to whom is referred an order that a no parking sign that reads "No parking between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday" be placed on Samoset Street in front of Kelly School for safety and visual purpose. Have considered the same. Recommend that the order be adopted. I would note there's no legal language attached, so I would just observe that to the chair, who may have some commentary on this. This was ordered to be approved by Councilors Faken, Lisi, Jordan, and Bartley. Madam Chair?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to table waiting for legal language on
Second.
this.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded, so we'll make sure whoever, the engineer or whomever, make sure they get their measurements or whatever's holding this up. We'll have that for the next meeting.
Yes,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
it wasn't a delay, it was just that they're not available yet.
Very good. Okay. So, motion on the floor is to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 17B table.
Suspend the rules, please, to take up 17 and C and D as a package.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to take up 17C and 17D as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 17C says, this is a report from the Committee on Ordinance to whom was referred an order that no parking signs be installed on Cabot between Lincoln and Oak based on safety concerns regarding limited visibility. Have considered the same, recommend that be adopted. Councilors Bacon, Lisi, Jordan, and Bartley. 17D says, the Committee on Ordinance to whom was referred an order that the City of Holyoke create a four-way stop sign intersection at the corner of Elm and Franklin in Holyoke. Have considered the same and recommend that order be adopted. Councilors Bacon, Lisi, Jordan, and Bartley.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee report and pass the first reading.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt both orders, pass the first reading on both. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
These were orders filed, and I don't have the counselors' names right in front of me, but our
happy to
engineer
help you
did
with
go
that.
out and inspect the areas and get back to us. And so, based on those recommendations, we adopted the orders. And I'll defer to the makers of the order if they wish to speak further.
17C is from Councilor Valentin. 17D is from Councilors Roman and Leahy. I don't know, anybody want to weigh in, or we're good?
It is what it is.
I mean, it's self-explanatory. It was discussed at ordinance.
Yep, very good. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion that the passages be
Second.
ordained.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that both passages be ordained. There is no further discussion. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting both 17C and 17D. A no vote is to deny both.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern? Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Unanimous vote of the body.
By your vote, you have approved both ordinance changes, which now brings us to 17E. The Committee on Ordinance, to whom is referred an order that the city engineer review the intersection at West Franklin and Linden Street. It is a dangerous intersection that needs further safety remediation. Please examine if a flashing light, as well as making it a three-way intersection with Linden Street fully one-way, as possible solutions. Please report back to the City Council as soon as possible. Have considered the same. Recommend that a flashing light be added to the intersection and that the order be referred to the mayor and DPW, and that repairs for the intersection be added to the capital bond. I believe, Madam Chair, it was a flashing speed limit sign as opposed to the flashing intersection light.
That would be correct, so.
Okay, could we just make
if
that
we
as a
can
friendly
have-
amendment?
If,
Like the proposal was, the final proposal was a flashing radar speed limit sign.
Yes.
And the mayor said yes to that, so I'm happy to report that. And, so a friendly amendment to change, light to say radar speed limit sign. Okay. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And,
so.
and we, yeah, and we can say be added near the intersection. So change the word to the word near, if that's okay. All in favor of that amendment?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved? Yes, and the rest of it is fine. Under discussion,
So
Councilor Bacon.
motion to receive and adopt the committee report as amended.
Yep, motion has been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report as amended. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon?
There have been a number of intersections that we've been addressing due to continued safety concerns. It was noted that there was significant improvement made at this intersection with the last improvements that were done, and I think a lot of credit should be given for that. It's just that it's a tough intersection, so there have been continued concerns, and so it was thought to try one more thing.
Yep.
So,
12 accidents down to 3 a year. That's definitely an improvement, but its speed on West Franklin continues to be the problem. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to take up item 17F and G as a package.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to take up items 17F and 17G as a package. All in favor of that rule suspension?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 17F is the report from the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that no parking after dark signs be added to parking areas near the reservoirs so that towing can be enforced. An increasing number of parked cars have been noted at these areas after dark. Have considered the same. Recommend that the order's been complied with. Councilors Vacan, Lisi, Jordan, and Bartley. And then 17G reads, also from the Committee on Ordinance, to whom is referred an order that no parking signs be placed on 202 northbound across from the entrance to Ashley Reservoir. This has become a serious safety risk with people parking cars so they encroach on the travel lane and pedestrians jaywalking, endangering themselves, and drivers traveling on 202. Have considered the same. Recommend that the order's been complied with. Councilors Vacan, Lisi, Jordan, and Bartley.
A motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt both committee reports. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we had representatives from the Water Department in on the idea of the no parking after dark signs, because that's their jurisdiction at the reservoirs, and they had also been noting increased occurrences of people being there for some unknown reason. And since they've had such a decrease in staff, it was hoped that by creating this and putting enforceable signage up, that in coordination with the police department, they can work together to resolve this. On the other order relative to parking, it's generally known that there is no parking allowed on Route 202. However, because the reservoir areas have become so popular, given the increased awareness, given the different events and the like that go there, unfortunately, people have just become absolutely ridiculous with what they're doing on Route 202. And so, unfortunately, we have to post the signage because It is so dangerous there, it's only when a terrible accident will occur if we don't take further steps to make sure that people are honoring the laws relative to no parking there. So we had good discussion in that regard, and it was agreed that the water company will take the steps that they can, and Superintendent Fuqua was here. And I do have to add that there is an amendment that was made to this, so if I could have a motion to add southbound no parking near the reservoir as well.
So moved.
on- Thank you.
Okay, motion on the floor is to just word that to me one more time, please.
To add that there would be no parking southbound on 202 near the reservoir, as well
Okay.
as northbound. This was on the recommendation of our
Sure.
superintendent, because he said
He did say that, yep.
you're gonna create a conflict if you just try to enforce one half, and
Sure, so a friendly
the other.
amendment to 17G to add after northbound and southbound. Okay? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. So adding and southbound to 17G after the word northbound.
Right, so based on the feedback that we received, the committee found it to be complied with because we were assured that the different signage will go up by each department.
Any other discussion of these committee reports? Counselor Lopez.
I also heard that it would be a good idea to talk to the police department about enforcing, because I think that you can put any signs without enforcement, you're not going anywhere, so.
Thank you, Counselor Lopez. I did send a communication to the police department and asked if, in coordination with their extra surveillance, because the Apremont intersection at the top of the hill is one of the 10 worst, so they're adding extra patrols and enforcement because of the grant. And I asked, since it's just a click down the road, and I have to say, I've already seen at least 2 occasions that people are being stopped there, so I really think they are stepping it up, and I appreciate that, so, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. All in favor of adopting 17F and 17G?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So those are all set. We're now off to 17H, which is the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the city place 4 stop signs in intersections where lights are not working and are blinking to prevent accidents until these lights are fully repaired. Have considered the same, recommend that the order be denied. Councilors Vacan, Lisi, Jordan, and Bartley.
A motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Okay, motion's been made and second to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to preface my remarks by saying that this is in no way derogatory to the intention of the order that was filed, but when the engineer reviewed the order and compared it to the safety issues, he found through different studies and through his references that the actual flashing yellow and flashing red is a safer option than the 4-way stop. And it's partly because the 4-way stop doesn't give anybody a right-of-way, is my takeaway from it. And so that's the only reason why it's coming to the council with this recommendation. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the committee report?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We did not have any finance, public safety, or public service meeting reports for this particular meeting. We're now off to item 21, which is the DGNR committee reports.
Motion to suspend, take 21A and B as a package, please.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to take 21A and 21B as a package. All in favor of suspending rules for that purpose?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 21A is the Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred an order that the City Council approve the resolution for Certified Housing Development Initiative Program Project and local tax increment exemption agreement with Nestling 181 LLC for the redevelopment of 181 Appleton Street, known as the Cubit, and the abutting properties in Board of Assessors map 030, block 6, parcels 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.5. Communication from Holyoke for CPA explaining rationale, reasoning for CPA recommendations. Not sure what CPA they're referring there to. Have considered the same, recommend the order be adopted. Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, Sullivan, and Roman. 21B is the Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred in order the City Council approve the resolution for a certified project and tax increment financing agreement with Nestling 181 LLC for the redevelopment project known as the Cubit at 181 Appleton Street and the abutting parcels in total identified at Board of Assessors Map 30, Block 6, parcels 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Have considered the same, recommend that the orders be adopted. Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, Sullivan, and Roman. Motion?
Yeah, I understand, Mr. President, but that line about the CPA, what do you want me to do with that?
If that's there in error, so we may want to delete that. That may not, maybe that's a typographical, technical error.
What'd I do? What'd I do?
I'm assuming that's maybe a grammatical error. It has nothing to do, maybe that was related to 21C and somehow it got on here. You want to just delete that line?
I do.
Okay, because it doesn't seem like it's germane.
Yeah, motion delete.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to delete the last sentence of the 21A committee report, which says, communication from Holyoke for CPA explaining rationale and reasoning for CPA recommendations. Motion on the floor is to delete that one sentence. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Amended
reread the
to
whole thing.
delete that.
Now, a motion to receive the committee report.
Can I ask one other technical question before we begin? 21A lists all the parcels, but it says parcel 12.5. On the other proposal, it has all the numbers, but the other one's just listed as 12, not 12.5. Is it 12 or 12.5? If you know.
We should motion, it would be 12.5.
So it should be 12.5 on both?
Yeah, motion to amend that.
Mr. President,
Counselor
could we just suspend the rules and allow Marcos to speak, just to clarify, to
Marcos
make
is
sure
here.
he's
Okay,
here?
yeah. We just want to make sure we get it right. As a matter of fact, we got something coming back. I don't know if it's tonight over a number being, Marcos?
That should be 12.
12.
We'll
Okay.
move 12.5 then.
All right, so, motion is to amend on item 21A to change 12.5 to simply 12. Okay, any discussion of that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so move. So that now reads both the same. Map 30, Block 6, parcels 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on both proposals. I turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
for a
so
motion.
just a motion to receive the committee reports and then to grant the two tax incentive programs.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee reports and to grant the two recommended results here, one being the two tax incremental financing agreements, as well as the resolution for certified project, as well for this property at these parcels. Under discussion, Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, very brief, the economic development team was here, Marcos and Tessa and John, and then as well as the applicant, the owner of Nestingly 181 LLC, which is based in Ward 6, actually. And so they answered our questions. The committee had quite a few questions relative to their, well, I had the questions, truth be told, relative to their financing. But it really came down to a couple things. One, there's a very large investment being made it was already made an investment made by the applicant who had a cash deal for the property, and he needs these two to really get the financing in place for the final push. It looks like he's got a solid tenant for the first two floors, and he's going to be working on, which is HCC, culinary program, and then for the top two floors, he's going to turn those into market rate housing. I think the committee really got behind it because the tax increment financing is something to which we're more accustomed than what we saw when we were here about 2 months ago relative to another business where they really didn't have to pay any taxes for a while. This is on the marginal value that's being waived. So in other words, the business owner is going to be paying taxes. It's going to be an increase to the tax base for the city of Holyoke. These two programs were supported by this body a few years ago, and this is, one of them is really, this is the first go-around on it, so to try to get market rate housing into the urban area. So with that, I'll answer any questions or turn it over to any other committee members.
Excuse me. Yeah. During the discussions, I abstained because the company I work for does some contract work for Nestingly. I've discussed it with the city solicitor, and I don't have any conflict, but per Mass General Law 268A, I'd like to disclose it to avoid any appearance of a conflict.
Should have gone to law school.
Okay, so are you going to be participating in the debate and the vote?
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Valentin.
Just also as a disclosure, just because HCC was mentioned, it's just as one of the tenants. So that is my full-time employer, but there is no conflict, so just wanted to make that clear. Thanks.
Okay. Counselor Lopez.
Mr. President, I just want to speak in favor of this project. I think that if you go by this building, you can see the changes right now, the big windows. This person is basically changing that whole corner. And I think that's exactly what we need, and I'm 100% behind this project. Thank you.
Thank you. I too would like to support the passing of both of these items. The project itself is consistent with both our urban renewal plan in the area and the city master plan itself for not just developing this area with new business, but developing it with new residential opportunities. The 18 market-based rental apartments that are going to be lofts, I think, are going to be tremendous. A view of the canal system, a view of an area that is quite frankly changing as we sit here. The investment is what the TIF is about. The TIF allows the two brothers who are developing the property to invest what has already been an initial upfront $1 million with an additional $3.9 million. The investment is something that may not happen if we don't grant them a TIF, and certainly makes it easier when a TIF is granted. I think most of us agree that, you know, giving something up front and to look at the long-range projections of tax dollars is what the plus is for the project. But again, it's a great positive for both the immediate neighborhood, but a great positive for the city.
Just, Mr. President, would you know how, it's funny that the CPA is in there, but something like the CPA, how would that affect someone that, I mean, if they're getting assessed on a property and they're not paying taxes on it, are they being, where does the CPA, does anyone know in this council chambers, before we put it on the ballot, how a CPA affects an organization that's getting this type of program?
Sure.
Anyone?
Well, I'll answer it. There's an assessed value. The person, the business will pay on the CPA on the assessed value, and then when that will not change at all. For you know, there's an assessed value for this building. The business owner will pay on that amount. So it doesn't change with the TIF, to my knowledge. So this is only on the marginal value of the increase of the property. So the base value is what's being assessed by the assessors. So as that changes, the amount will go up that they'll have to pay for CPA. So right now they're at a fraction above the base value. That will be abated, if you will. As that marginal rate goes down, their tax obligation will go up. Same with their CPA.
Yeah, I'd also like to speak in support of this TIF. And I'd like to compliment the job Marcos did on this also. This one's very well thought out. From the first year, it'll result in a higher tax return to the city, and it's not like some other ones we've seen where you're looking at no money or no increase at all for 10 years. This one is very well done, and it actually is incremental. We do see from year to year a increase in what they're paying, and it's a much shorter range of time also. It's over in 6 years. And then, right. And this one's very well thought out and very well done. And these are the kinds we should be putting out to attract more developers to the city and making them aware of these type of programs and the willingness of the city to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Marcos also to explain this project and to the brothers that actually came down and invested a substantial amount of money into an area of town that is really coming back. And you take a building that was once American Electric Cable and a thriving business, and it just sort of fell apart for years, and nothing was in there. And these brothers come in to invest in having the HCC actually come down and running their program on the first 2 floors, and to have housing down there, which is a plus, and the parking in that area to really brighten up that neighborhood, and also the businesses around there that will benefit, because there'll be people in and out of that building and people living there and people working there. So I'm very much in support of this, and thank the brothers for the investment they're making in our community.
This building has history. My whole family actually worked for American Cable many years ago, and to see it going up and not, being considered as a demolition, that many of us are concerned about that, brings a lot of joy to many people in our neighborhood to see that, it's also taking buildings that are looking not the greatest in particular neighborhoods, and for some people are commenting that it's creating gentrification, but I think we are the ones who should not allow gentrification to take on. I'm the chair of the Holyoke Redevelopment Authority, and I am assuring that we are bringing what is in the best interest of these neighborhoods. So I applaud Marcos for the work he's done, and he's keeping that in in the back burner, and the whole team for the work they're doing. So I want to, I bring this up just for the sake that it is my interest as well. Thank you.
Councilor Roman.
Yes, I too stand in support of this. TIF, I think it's a great thing. I think Dennis and his brother are doing amazing work down there. I've seen the work and the solutions that they're doing. As with everything, I agree with Councilor LeBron Martinez and the great work that Marco's doing. And I still would caution the city around gentrification and the realness of the underlining tones. And it was commented that I've heard people even say we need to re-gentrify. A little gentrification is not bad. I've heard that directly from people's mouths. So we still need to be cognizant that in this community, and that's why there are great programs out there, but we have to live in a reality that there are still those underlining foundations. And as long as we're cognizant of this economic growth for everyone and ensuring that everyone has a seat at the table, I'm in support of continuing to support great efforts like this. But perception is reality to some of the people who live on Main Street. And again, I keep saying, $11,500, the annual average income of South Holyoke. We need to do a lot more around increasing jobs that our community can access, that they can move up the economic and socioeconomic ladder, because those are realities for our constituents as well. So I look forward to, with all of these projects, hiring local, allowing our young men and women who might have prior convictions to be in those construction jobs, and again, to be cognizant that while yes, we have had this conversation, this is still a reality for some of our people, and we can do and continue with these great projects. I know Dennis and a few others who hire local construction workers can change that reality and notion for a lot of our constituents. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, I'd like to move the question, please.
Okay, since you're the last speaker, I'll say that's in order. Without further ado, since there's no other discussion, we can now go to the vote. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting both 21A and 21B. The committee report is to adopt both and to grant these various tax incentives as articulated earlier for this specific parcels for this particular applicant. Without further ado, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote's in favor of that, and no votes to deny.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Bresnahan.
Yes.
Graney.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Roman.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your unanimous vote, you have approved those tax incentive agreements, and we thank Marcos for his hard work on that. Another great job on your part. 21C, we already took care of. 21D, we already took care of, and now we're off to 21E. 21E, the Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred an order that the council requests the mayor immediately start the process to repurpose the geriatric authority property. I'd suggest the next step is to go out to bid for an appraiser. Please immediately notify the council of any progress. Have considered the same. Recommend that this order has been complied with. Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, Sullivan, and Roman.
Motion receive and adopt the committee report.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, this is an order I filed over a year ago, and when the geriatric was going away. And it turns out that the appraisal was completed last fall, though I only just heard word of it a month ago. So we put it on the committee and agenda, and we a couple times, and we had a couple discussions about it. In the meantime, the Director of Planning and Economic Development has sent out the appraisal to everyone. I don't know if Councilor Graney received it yet, but if you didn't, Councilor Howie, it'll be put in the mail to you. Marcos, I don't know, is he still here? No, he's left. I'll make sure he mails it to you, because he did email it to Howie. Did you receive it?
I've received it, yes.
Oh, okay. All right, so, okay, I'll set. So everybody's received copies of the two appraisals. So I wasn't sure if that was a proprietary information. For the most part, it is not, except for the final verdict on the value of the two large parcels. So for the public, we're talking about the improved acreage where the geriatric and the now congregate housing lies, and then the unimproved 9 acres or so that faces east towards Springdale. So it's about 18 acres up there, more or less, of property. So we had a really good discussion about that. I'm gonna point out just a couple things, if I may, Mr. President.
Certainly.
Now this is a certified real estate appraiser, saying that so the zoning up there is RO. So this body at some point a few years ago, before I got on board, changed the zoning to RO, which is multifamily residence or professional offices, which is, I think, a really great zoning decision by the city council and approved by the mayor, whomever that was at the time. The appraiser said pretty clearly that the highest and best use of that property is to sell the entire parcel, including the parcel with the congregate housing on it. Now, that's 1.3 acres that sits on Lower Westfield Road. Now, that's not to say this body's going to do that. There's an order in DGR, which ultimately we'll talk to the mayor on what he wants to do, but on either to make this all surplus and or to give part of that parcel back to deed that parcel for $1, 1.3 acres, to the Holyoke Housing Authority. Again, that's a decision down the road. I'm just pointing out what an independent third-party professional appraiser said. The highest and best use is not for congregate housing. The highest and best use is to put that back on the tax rolls. And so right now, and this is not proprietary, the assessed value of that property is all those properties up there would be $7.1 million. The taxes realized for the whole parcels to the city of Holyoke, Mr. President, would be somewhere in the neighborhood of near $300,000 for those parcels, Mr. President. So I think it's just something to think about. Hopefully the mayor and or Marcos will get back to me as to when they want me to take up, what their opinions are on these appraisals. I was going to do it on the 13th, but I don't think we're going to do it then because it looks like it's a full agenda. But at some point, the committee will take the two agenda items up, and we'll just have a discussion. But I'm thankful that the appraisals were done, And I'm glad to now have the opinions on the value, and we'll proceed from there. Thank you.
Very good. Any other thoughts, comments, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the committee report?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We didn't happen to have any Charter or Rules Committee reports for this particular meeting, which now moves us over to motions, orders, and resolutions.
23 through 26 as a package.
Second.
Okay. 23 through 26 is a package. Okay, that sounds good. I'll send over to DPW. Okay, motion to suspend the rules to take up 23 through 26 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Okay. All from yours truly. Number 23, the DPW please install a sewer drain on St. Jerome Ave or make other appropriate modification to the street so storm runoff does not run down the driveway of 266 West Franklin Street. This is the second request. Let's hope this gets taken care of. 24, ordered that the city engineer please review the intersection of St. Jerome and West Franklin Street to make safety improvements to this intersection, including considering the install of crosswalk signage, and additional signage. Item number 25, DPW purchase permanent street speed limit sign with radar feature on it and install on West Franklin Street. Item number 26, also from Kevin Jordan, DPW please clean up trash and illegal dumping that is taking place on Summit Avenue. I'd request that 23 through 26 be received, adopted, and referred to the DPW and city engineer.
So moved.
Okay? All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. That takes care of those.
27 has been complied with.
DPW.
Second.
Yes, yep, okay. Item number 27 from Counselor Jordan, City Clerk, please put PDF version of proposed FY17 budget on city website. Motion on the floor is that this has been complied with. Is there a second?
I did.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So that's all set. Item number 28. Item number 28 is introduced by Counselor Jordan. Hoyoke, please take notice that neighbors on 4th of July time period have problems with people shooting off fireworks from Rowan Park. Please take notice during evening hours to increase patrols in this time period. I would request that this be received, adopted, and referred to the police department.
So
Okay,
second.
motion's been made second to receive, adopt, and refer to the police department. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 29 is introduced by Counselor Jordan, ordered that in accordance with Section 2-349C licenses, the Code of Ordinances, that the City Council approve a lease of Roberts Field to the Hoyoke Blue Sox. I'd recommend Ordinance Committee. Okay, and this is, as you know, we have the new license ordinances. Well, this is for a period greater than 30 days, so therefore, this is coming in. Hoyoke Park and Rec is requesting that we approve this. This is to approve the lease out, the licensing out of Mackenzie Field for the Blue Sox. So-
Second.
Yes, Counselor Graney.
Could we act on that tonight rather than send it to ordinance?
Honestly, God, I don't even know much about it. I was just asked to file it. So I don't think they object to
Signing a
having it go to
lease.
committee and come back in 2 weeks. I don't think nobody said it was time sensitive. And I'd have to, honest to God, I'd have to get all the details for you, to be honest with you. So motion on the floor is to receive and refer to ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Item number 30, introduced by Councilor LeBron Martinez, ordered that the DPW remove a handicap sign between row house number 3 and 4 on Center Street per resident's request, as is, no longer needed. There is no need for additional parking. Motion to send to ordinance for, to remove the ordinance.
That there is a need
There
for
is a need.
additional, that there is a need for additional parking, not,
You're asking that we remove the handicap area, right?
right, because there is a need for additional parking.
Yeah, so to remove the handicap that's there, we gotta change the ordinance.
The person, yeah, the
And
person.
then it goes, if we remove that, it would revert back to parking for anybody,
Right,
which is what you want.
yes,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Okay, motion on the floor is to receive, refer to ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. 31 is filed by our newest Counselor Lopez.
We already did it. We're done.
Oh.
I'm willing to do it again.
No. You don't want to do it again.
You funny guy.
It's time for real?
Okay, 32, introduced also by our newest counselor, Counselor Diosdado Lopez. Order that the Finance Committee invite in city clerk and assistant registrar of voters commissioners to discuss or implement one precinct voting in wards 1, 2, 3, and 5 in order to save money for FY17 election officers. The city is already doing such a one precinct voting location in wards 4, 6, and 7. So you'd like to send this to committee, to
Yes.
finance?
Yeah, if that will be.
Okay.
All rules.
Charter
Yeah, that's.
Well, it's not a charter, or it's actually not a charter or rule that has it.
Public service.
Let's send it to my friend over there. That's okay. That's fine.
I don't know, where have we sent most election stuff?
No.
No, public service on
Public
second thought.
service
No,
will do
okay.
it.
If I could ask, what questions, or what committees is Diosdado on? I asked him earlier, I wasn't sure.
I haven't, okay, I'm gonna take that up with him, but, I'm gonna have something very soon before,
Just wondering.
before the end of the week. Him and I are discussing it, but, return, yeah. But,
take.
we're almost there. We're almost there to getting that announced. By the end of the week, I'll have that for him. So it's your order, you pick. Where do you want it to go?
Public service will be fine.
Public service, okay. Mr. Chair. Counselor Roman.
I actually, again, I want to speak out against this order again. I don't think we should be voting on it. I actually would like to propose a motion that this be withdrawn tonight. I really feel strongly, again, with disenfranchised voters, seniors, it makes sense in the lower wards to actually keep the two polling locations, and I could only speak for Ward 2, but I vehemently disagree with this order, and I actually would make a motion to withdraw it tonight. I've spoken with voters since it's gotten on the agenda, and this is, again, disenfranchised voters, senior citizens. A lot of the senior towers are in the lower wards. It makes sense. I have from Route 5 all the way in West Springfield up to Churchill. Where's the middle point for my constituency? The two voting and polling locations look the best. And again, I have to speak strongly against this order, and I actually would make that motion to withdraw.
Counselor Bacon.
Now, in fairness to the maker of the order, he's put in all of the wards that currently have two, so within the discussion in the committee, it can become known whether there's a reason to keep it, and maybe there is a reason not. So it doesn't mean it will happen, it just means we're gonna look at it and see, if it is feasible in some of the areas,
Okay. Any thoughts, comments? Counselor LeBron Martinez?
If we ever looked at the studies within certain wards, there's a lot of, lack of transportation is one of the issues in our neighborhoods, and I am not in favor of this. I can see that, we could look at other places where we can save if we're looking to save, but this is not in the best interest of many of us in a neighborhood. So I'm not gonna vote for this in respect to the maker, but we need to rethink this and I'm gonna ask for withdrawal as well. Thank you.
Procedurally, assuming this goes to committee, if it does, and if it's not withdrawn, I would have to talk to the clerk and the law department too, because the city council sets the polling locations, and we usually vote on those time by time, but I'm not sure what how flexible is the movement on those and the procedure on changing those? I guess we could say the polling locations are X, but, because we do vote on those in orders, and it has to be approved by the secretary. So to change the current list, what's the process to change or not change? If it's not too long of if you know offhand? Okay. Okay. For this year? Okay. All right. Okay. All right, we'll go through the whole, we'll just think about that, the procedure. Okay. Okay. All right, Councilor LeBron Martinez.
Again, with respect to the maker of this order, I also want to just remind us, we may not be here in another future of elections, okay? This is an opportunity to open doors, to change precinct as well, and I'm really concerned It's not about me. I want to make that clear. This is not about me. It's about the fact that it took years for some of us to be representing in these wards, for those who may be so, and this is not a great move. And that's my own opinion. Whoever, doesn't feel that it is mine. And it's hard enough that we have to work these neighborhoods, whether we see it as a responsible citizen or civic engagement aspect or not. I see it that we worked hard enough to mobilize certain votes and get to vote, and now we're gonna, eliminate certain places that it's gonna make us even work harder to assist some of these people to get to vote. Unless there's a voting moment that we can get people to vote from their home, and we can do that, I'm pleased to let it be that way if we had to kind of combine. But right now, I don't feel this is the case. So, again,
Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you. With all due respect to the maker of the order, and welcome to you, Stato.
Yes,
I too am not in favor of this. It's transportation is an essential thing. Not many people today in downtown area, maybe 1 and 2, have vehicles. I'm sure many people do. I'm not exactly sure the percentage. But, one of the things I want to do is make it easier for people to vote, not make it more difficult for people to vote. And I think by doing this, one of the things we might be doing is saving money, but at the expense of what? At the end of the day, I want as many people to have their voices heard, not saying that, geez, I would have liked to vote for you, or maybe I wanted to vote against you. I hope it's the first way. But, I didn't have an opportunity to get to the polls in time. So having said that, I guess I am in favor of, we could talk about anything in committee, but I don't think this is the right way to go to save money. Thank you.
Councilman McGivern?
I think there's some great arguments being made, but I hate to set a precedent that we're afraid to discuss anything. There is discussion in here in Ward 3 where the precincts are 2 blocks away from each other. Yes. Ward 5, the people who vote at McMahon School drive from West Holyoke. The people who live next to McMahon School have to drive to Donahue School. We have issues that we faced over the years. Ward 6, we've had several polling places because we don't have any locations for Ward 6. And Ward 7 is the only building that we could find that could accommodate any of the 2 voting precincts together. So I don't disagree with the comments that are being made this evening, and we'll probably vote accordingly. But we have to vote on this every year, whether we like to or not. When the city clerk puts it in front of us, we take a vote on the wards. What's wrong with having a discussion ahead of time so we're ready and prepared for it?
I think the other part of it, to emphasize your point, is what does it really cost to, I think the issue here is money, obviously a savings. Is all the dollars that are spent need to be spent? Maybe it's not an issue of changing locations, but, what are the costs associated with these things? And is there something that could be saved? Perhaps there's not, but I don't think we've had this conversation on anything to do with this in quite a while, so I don't know. Just food for thought. Councilor Roman?
Just a point of order, Mr. Chairman, that again, I agree with the sentiments of my colleagues, but again, I've talked to constituents, I personally reached out and waiting for the actual numbers, and that even thinking about condensing where the physical building is, the staffing amount will still be the same. You still need the same amount of ward precinct captains and checkers, and that doesn't change. It's about the convenience of the voters. And just to the point of the order, I made a motion. My colleague, I believe, is seconding it from Ward 1. Yep. And to hear from these lower wards, I think that the precedent of even talking about it is a disenfranchisement to these voters of these communities that are about access, and especially the elderly who need these buildings. 475 Falsetti Tower, I have to tell all those seniors that they have to move, or the one right down on Cabot Street that they can't go to Morgan. It's going to be life-changing for them. So I would just encourage my colleagues to please withdraw this. And again, I think the appropriate time is when we're voting on the actual locations. That's when we can have that debate. Maybe we have that discussion then, but if not, I just wholeheartedly feel that this should not even change. It's a system that works, especially for disenfranchised our elderly and those who don't have access to transportation. Thank you.
Well, I think the point was made, though, was that you'd have to do this with sufficient notice so that you couldn't wait to the point of we're actually voting on the locations, because at that point the window's closed, because you have to tell everybody, you'd have to give a lot of advance notice, get Secretary of State approval, the whole 9 yards, and then I'm sure there's got to be a notice sent to everybody if there ever was a change, because I know, like, for example, you take Ward 6, I mean, they hopped around 3 different locations in a matter of just a few years, and everybody had to be sent notices related to that, and before they ended up at Sullivan School, so just, I don't know. Counselor Greenie?
Yeah, if the system isn't broken, why try to fix it? I mean, with all due respect to Councilman Lopez, but if it's not fixed, if it's working for the people, let's keep it in place.
Okay.
It's
Counselor-
common sense.
Okay.
If I may,
Counselor
as-
Lopez.
As the maker of the order, I like listening to everybody, but I have some reason why I follow the order, and that's why I would like to have it go to committee, and then I will give you all the background if you're willing. I'm not prepared tonight, but I'm willing to discuss this in committee, and then I'm not asking you to vote in favor, just to listen, and then you decide if you want to change it or not.
Okay. Counselor Bacon?
I would just speak in favor of the order. I mean, since when aren't we willing to discuss issues in the city? I mean, I've never seen an order give leave to withdraw on the filing of it in this body yet. I mean, if that's how we're gonna start to do business, I guess it would be a change in our practice. But I think since we have 3 wards that are already doing it one way and 4 that are doing it another way, why not look at the other 4? If the arguments that people are making tonight stand, well, I'm sure those won't be changed. But there might be a couple that it makes sense and nobody will care and it will save a few $1,000s. And we've been struggling to find poll workers. It would take a little stress off of that too. So I think it's worthy of discussion, but I don't think we should be doing the committee work as the full council, which is what it feels like we're doing now. Thank you.
Counselor Valentin?
Just to clarify, it wasn't that long ago that former Councilor Soto had filed an order regarding something about the mail and Sundays, and it got killed on this floor right here, so it didn't go to committee, it was a leave to
It was
withdraw.
about the one time in 50 years.
I'm just clarifying because the statement made was that doesn't happen, so I just wanted to state that I remember that clearly.
As a practice, it
Hey,
doesn't
what could the
happen.
city council do about mail on
It's a
Sundays?
jurisdiction issue.
Ask Councilor
We order the
Tallman.
post office to
Ask Councilor
change
Tallman.
its postal regulations.
It's not a practice.
We have a wide net, but.
We
not-
deliver packages on Sundays too, don't forget now.
Okay.
Counselor Lebron Martinez, your thoughts?
If it is to save money, I'll be the first one to give up my stipend that I'm getting in order to make this day the way that it is. And I mean that. I'm willing to give it up. It could be publicly, it's here. It's not gonna do any difference, but like when I ran for office, first of all, I never ran for the money. I ran for the purpose that our community needed to be represented. And here I am, with probably people questioning when I could be taking care of my own family. And I'm still at the fight that I need to be here, and I will fight till the end. And this can be a catalyst opportunity. Again, I want us to think about that. This is not for who are here today. It's who may not be here tomorrow, what this may mean in the long run. So if it is about money, again, I'm willing to give my $10,000 up if it's gonna save anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Okay, motion, the original main motion was to send it to the Public Service Committee. There was an amendment on the floor to give it leave to withdraw, so we're gonna vote on the amendment first,
There was
okay?
no second, if I recall.
Gladys
I
seconded.
seconded it.
Yes, I got it.
Gladys seconded it, okay? So we're gonna vote on the motion to give leave to withdraw. All in favor of giving item number 32 leave to withdraw, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Noes have it. On the main motion, which is to send item 32 to the Public Service Committee, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor of sending item 32 to the Public Service Committee?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Ayes have it.
Mr. President, can you do a show of hands, please?
Sure. Show of hands on sending item 32 to the Public Service Committee. Okay, and so it's item 32 off to Public Service. 33, we took care of. That was adopted, so that we moving on to 34. Make sure I just keep my house in order here. Okay. 34, thank you, sir. Order, this is coming to us by way of Counselor McGee. Order that the DPW allow Hoyoke residents with pull trailers 10 feet or less to use the compost dump area.
I guess receive, adopt, send it to DPW, and if I can explain quickly.
Yeah, little details. What, is this something they're precluding now or something? Go
Yeah,
ahead, Counselor
out
McGee.
of the blue, they decided.
You know anybody with a 10-foot lesser trailer? Or?
I received actually 2 phone calls that they were turned away from bringing, you know, they don't have trucks, they have the trailer, and they're driving in their stuff, and they were turned away because DPW somewhere changed the rule to 6 feet or less.
Oh, interesting.
So they said, well, why the change? You know, I have my card to dump. I don't have a truck, I have a trailer. And they said, well, there are too many people who are doing part-time work, mowing lawns and stuff, and using their dump card to dump down here. And the response was, well, enforce that they can't dump other people's stuff, only their stuff. And I said, well, we're just gonna do it across the board. So in essence, we're gonna penalize everyone for a few bad deeds. So in essence, for people who don't have a pickup truck, who have these trailers and have been using them to take down their stuff, they're now getting penalized. So the response is no, enforce the rule that you can only dump your household stuff at the compost and not.
I think you get like 30 visits a year for compost. I think it's something like that, yeah.
So to penalize other people for following the rules because of other people, that's why I filed this order.
Got it. So it used to be 10, they lowered it to 6, so now you're putting it back to 10.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. By the way, if they don't change it, we did recently put in an ordinance relative to renters to make it a formal policy by ordinance. If worse comes to worse, you may be able to formally revisit this and make it 10 feet. I think I saw Councilor President hands up.
Thanks. I just don't know. I mean, it might be a good idea to find out why. Maybe if we sent it to a committee, we can certainly send it to DPW. I mean, just so everybody knows, it's not free. When we dump the grass, it costs us about $100,000 to get rid of that stuff down there a year. And maybe they're looking at saving a few bucks. I mean, it'd be very difficult to determine whether or not I cut the grass at my house or I cut the grass at 4 neighbors' houses and load it into a 10-foot trailer. I mean, I just think that maybe we call in the DPW and find out why we're doing it. I mean, it is not, it's free for residents, but it's not free just like the bus barns. We can bring the stuff down there, but it's costing the taxpayers money to get rid of it. It's costing the taxpayers money to get rid of the compost, the grass, the trees, and everything that we dump down there that we use for free. It's not free. It costs us money to get rid of that stuff. I mean, I don't know the 10-foot to the 6-foot. I don't know why they did it. I mean, I just don't know.
When was the last time they got rid of anything down there? If you've seen it lately, it looks like Mount Everest. It doesn't look like there's been a haul away of any of those clippings lately, but.
They got a big machine that they rent.
Interesting.
And cuts it up.
Maybe they're getting that much per year, because it.
Well, they use the money that we get from the recycling.
I see.
They flip that over into that. But it's up, I'm just a.
Interesting, yeah, okay. Counselor McGivern?
Well, they used to bring it up for the compost pile up by the college, and then the snakes took it over as a den, and we had to rechange the route for the college coming out to 202.
Uh-huh. Okay, so are you making a motion to send it to committee instead? Or just a suggestion, okay. All right. All right, so.
I just don't know how, I mean.
Todd, you sticking with your original plan?
Is the maker of the order gonna go down there with a 10-foot trailer?
I would second the motion to send to committee, because what I would hate to see is that there's like commercial uses, and so maybe it's not so much the size of the trailer, but there's a non-commercial plate on the
Yeah, like,
trailer.
yeah.
That's the important thing, right? We don't want
Bill's Landscaping on the side or something.
using our compost pile for their personal business.
Okay, so there's been a motion to send to public safety.
Send it to DGNR, to tell you the truth.
Any further discussion on that? If not, all in favor of sending to public safety?
Aye.
Opposed? Off to public safety.
I should have kept my big mouth shut.
Thank you. Item number 35 is.
Mr. President, can we suspend the rules and take up item 35 through 38 as a package, please?
Sure.
Second that.
All right, we love that. Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take 35 through 38 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Thank you. Item number 35, introduced by Councilor Roman, city place a loading zone sign in front of 845 Main Street for business owner Diomedes Chavez, who is having difficulty locating parking for delivery truck. 36, DPW move a handicap placard signage from 567 Southeast to 70 Chestnut for Gonzalez Garcia. 37, introduced also by Councilor Roman, City of Hoyoke Place handicap-only parking sign for Maridelva de Jesus in the city-owned parking lot on the corner of Adams and South Summer Street. Item number 38, the City of Hoyoke Place a handicap parking sign up for Mr. Jose Ortiz. Ordinance on all these?
Ordinance with a copy to the Disability Commission to the appropriate orders.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to send items 35 through 38 to the Ordinance Committee with a copy of 36 through 38 also to the Disabilities Commission. Any discussion?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Just
Councilor
on
Tallman.
that, to the chair, to Councilor, my colleague, esteemed colleague, Mr. Roman over here. The address on that, is there you have the address of Mr. Ortiz?
Oh, yeah, for Mr. Ortiz on 38?
There is, Mr. President. When I sent the email,
Oh,
I forgot to
leave
put
to
it that
withdraw.
way.
Okay, I
No.
just
Let's make it 2 in history.
Male and handicap parking.
No, we're not that harsh around here.
It should be
Despite
on the
our
application,
reputation,
right? It's on the application
being
in the
cruel,
clerk's office.
unfeeling people. Okay, very good. So, without further ado, 35 through 38 off to ordinance with a 36 through 38 with a copy to disabilities. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 39.
Mr. President, could you also take up 39 and 42 as a package, please?
Okay. Motion to suspend the rules to take up 39 and 42 as a package. Thank you, sir. Item number 39 is that the City of Hoyoke repair and repave sidewalk on Sargent Street between Pine and Walnut. The sidewalks are in disrepair. They pose a safety risk for the residents in the neighborhood and the community at large. Item number 42 says that the City of Hoyoke repair and repave the sidewalk on the right-hand side of South Summer between 618 South Summer until the corner where South Summer intersects with Adams Street. There are a few elderly and handicapped residents who are in need of this repair.
Public safety, Mr. President?
Okay, as opposed to just receiving and adopting and sending to the DPW?
I agree with your friendly amendment, Mr. President.
Okay,
Thank
yes.
you.
Second.
Yeah. Motion on the floor has been made and seconded to receive and adopt 39 and 42 and refer to the DPW to get this done for the people of South Hoyoke. Any discussion?
Resident request, simple, up and down. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, takes care of those two. 40. Item number 40, introduced by Councilor Roman, that the City of Hoyoke place a binding referendum question changing the terms of all local municipal elected officials to 4 years.
Charter and rules, Mr. President?
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to receive and refer to the Charter and Rules Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. President, really quick.
Oh, okay,
I
Councilor
just hate to
Roman.
keep piling on to Councilor McGivern, and I hope he forgives me for adding another one.
That first meeting is gonna be a humdinger, right, Joe?
He's still looking for the jacket.
This just in.
Oh, I know where it is, I just can't get a hold of it. Gotta try to find some minutes.
Probably so big you can't carry it anymore.
We will be having a meeting before July 1st, and then we'll finish all of it over the summer recess.
Very, okay,
Quickly, I would just note that the residents just recently voted on this issue. Thank you.
okay. All in favor of receiving and referring to Charter and Rules? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Item 41, introduced by Councilor Roman, ordered that the City Council declare a portion of the city-owned property at 107 Clemente Street as determined by the city engineer as surplus property, and that the City Council approve granting a utility easement to the owner of the property at 115 Clemente in order to allow for emergency sewer repairs.
DGNR, Mr. President?
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to receive item 41 and refer it to DGNR committee. Any discussion? Chairman gave out a pump fist, so he's excited about that going there. So, all in favor? Opposed? So moved. That takes care of 41. We have but one item, I know. I'm sorry you're disappointed. We only have one item left. And late file B from Councilor LeBron Martinez, that the city council, with appropriate process, change a current handicap sign in front of Picnelli from regular handicap to van accessible, so current visitors and participants are able to lower the van lift for the wheelchair.
Receive and refer to ordinance committee?
Do we need an ordinance for that?
If it's,
Oh, it might change the measurements. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
how about we send it to ordinance with a copy to disabilities and the city engineer?
please, yes.
Okay. Motion to receive, refer to DPW with a copy to Disability Commission as well as the engineer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. That's the end of the items of the agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor of adjourning?
All right.
That has been adopted. All